Hello and welcome to another sunny live chat. And when I say sunny, it depends when you're listening to this. I was just trying to be funny at the beginning here, which doesn't normally work, which is why I should just stick to my research and facts as opposed to trying to make funny jokes. So I'm just waiting for people to come in now if anyone wants to talk to me. The reason why I'm doing this same one again, where it says about the Anunnaki created humans, is because the last two times I've done this particular one, I've had so many questions. I had 350 people listening all the way through for hours, and I just couldn't get to the actual questions, and I hate not getting to people's questions. If you've listened to me before, you know how frustrated I get. So I thought I see the certain names popping up, joining. Thank you for the hearts. You don't have to do that. I just do this because I actually enjoy it. I'm sad. But Lil Sweetness has wrote to man, glad you're still going strong. Thank you very much. Yes, I hope you're doing all okay as well. Thank you. Born has wrote, do you know anything about the true occultic creation of Islam? I do not, I'm afraid. I kind of avoid religion. Don't hate me for saying this, but because the Anunnaki, the oldest known people on the planet, well, when I say people, it's not necessarily true. The oldest known race that could actually read and write were the Anunnaki, and they never. Obviously, then came the Sumerians and Babylonians and so on. But the Anunnaki didn't have any religion. They believed that planets were gods. Believe it or not, they did. It was a deity, which is why they had a shrine for their home planet, Nibiru, which not a lot of people know about and even want to care about, but they did. It's written in their tablets, and the translations of the tablets are out there. Many different places. You can find them. Mainly, I use, because it's English, I use the Oxford University translations. Obviously, I've read other books and I recite back to books. And when I say books, these are translations done by other people, not necessarily Zachariah Sitchin, but loads of other different people that's translated them. So I kind of avoid religion only because, in my opinion, don't hate me, it's a man-made construct that wasn't something to do with an almighty being, because obviously the Anunnaki were here. We've got 2 million odd tablets that literally say they were here. They've got carvings of them that were here. We've got buildings that we can't recreate today that they'd done. The list goes on. So yeah, they was definitely here. Susie Q's joined. That's a name I haven't heard for a long time. Hi, Susie. She's wrote, boss. Hi, I hope you're well. Hope your dogs are doing fine. Senzu has wrote, I'm just as sad. I'm guessing that means you research, and I don't know what the DW means. I'm not up on more modern tech speak. Just scrolling down. Chris has wrote, John D. Rockefeller's secret weapon. Obviously, you're fully aware of the Rockefellers' involvement in hiding our true history, I'm guessing, because you wouldn't have wrote that if you didn't. But yeah, they're. I know I go on about Rockefellers, and if you've watched my videos, I point to people that deliberately debunk people like Zachariah Sitchin or try and make people like myself look stupid. But when you do the research and you find out that they were trained in a building that was funded by the Rockefellers or owned by the Rockefellers, you then start to put the pieces together and say, I wonder why these people have gone out of their way to deliberately debunk the 2 million tablets that talk about things that we didn't even know about back then. So Sherry's wrote, hi Bossman. Hi Sherry. I thought I'd just do a quick yeah, you know it. I've been reading your posts. We got to chat. I mean, you're telling me stuff there that I don't know. You're not even actually talking to me. You're talking to someone else. But I love listening to or reading your posts because you've got an angle which I don't have, and I would love to know that angle to do with the skin colours and the eye colours and all these kind of things that I'm still learning. I'm muddling my way through, so I know I sometimes say things that you're probably sitting there shouting at the phone, thinking he's wrong. But I am learning, and I'm happy to learn where I go wrong with things. Jerkers wrote, "What do you think about Sitchin's series?" I think he was absolutely amazing. I think he, just because obviously I've read other people's translations as well, as well as obviously I can't read it, but I've read other translations of the same translations that he's read and various different things. I conclude that he was the best at the translations, and that's not because, so for example, the cuneiform parallels of the Old Tablet, the cuneiform parallels of the Old Testament was a 1912 book, which basically the book was the translations off of the ancient tablets. But the problem is, back in 1912, they didn't have the same vocabulary that we have now. They may not have had the understanding back in then, 1912. I mean, when was I think the Wright brothers were only just about learning to fly then in Kitty Hawk, if my memory serves me, around that sort of time. So, aeroplanes and flying craft wouldn't have been in this translation's radar to actually write things like spaceships and flying craft, etc., and laser beams and all this kind of stuff. So the reason why I think Sitchin is more correct than the other people is because he's using more modern terminology that we can actually narrow down on and become closer to what the actual Anunnaki had, if that makes sense. So yes, Sitchin's work, although in fairness, some of his early books, I think his first book was 1976. When you read those and then you read the later ones, you see that he's slightly changed his tune on some things, which is absolutely fine, because he continued from there, obviously researching, and then as he's gone along, he's realised might not been exactly how he thought it was back then. But yeah, I still think he's the best there. Chris has wrote, "Where can I buy the book?" I'm not sure which book you're referring to. If you're on about Zachariah Sitchin's, I always tell, this is my opinion, I always tell people to go to the Lost Book of Enki first. You can get it anywhere on the internet, really. Casey's wrote RH Negative Bloodlines. So if you're absolutely interested in knowing more about what the RH Negative does to people in terms of extrasensory perception and various different other things that trust me, I didn't even know about. There's a lady on here called Blue Moon Sigma and she is absolutely phenomenal. I have got it's easy if you want to go to her website. I have got a link on my website to her website, because hers is got a dash in it, and here the-rh-nexus.com, I think it is. But if you just go to ourtruehistory.co.uk, you can get to her site there. But the bloodlines from my research, as well as mainstream saying that it came from Mesopotamia 100,000 years ago, that's when Enki and the other Anunnaki started to breed with the humans that they'd already created beforehand. So then the bloodlines became, or certainly Adam and Eve's bloodline, which were the offspring off of Enki, they became important because obviously they were royalty, because Enki was a prince. Now, anyone that doesn't believe in the Anunnaki, you've got to ask yourself, where did suddenly a king appear from, King Anu? Where did that come from? Out of the blue, in the ancient text, suddenly a king, King Anu, and his two sons, Enki and Enlil, suddenly appeared knowing a full language. I mean, come on, really? So basically, the bloodlines of the royalty, I'm not saying that all, obviously they are diluted, they married other people and, or had relationships with humans and so on and so on. So to start with, you end up with demigods. So technically, Adam and Eve were demigods because they were the offspring off of one of the Elohim, which was God, or gods. So down the line, they kept hold of the bloodlines. Now, some of those, I'm guessing, were taught how to use their technologies, etc., to create buildings. And they also did manipulate DNA to create builders, because obviously the amount of buildings around the world that we still can't even do today. So I think obviously the builders ended up, in my opinion, becoming the Freemasons, etc. But I think there was probably some offspring, direct descendants off of the Anunnaki that are in with the builders, which is why we ended up with kings and queens, etc., around the area. And of course, the Anunnaki they were the first people to have a crown and scepter, which they gave to kings and queens, which we've obviously got here in the UK. So, yeah, the RH negative is their blood type mixed with ours. Oh, sorry, I don't know who's at the door. One sec. Sorry. Hello. Okay, one sec. Oh, you're gonna hate me for this. I don't know if I can mute it. Sorry, I'm just gonna get rid of the guy. Sorry. One sec. Electrician's here and I'm on a live chat. Could you just let him know?
I've got to go, Jack.
Sorry. Sorry, everybody. We had hi there. Sorry.
That's good.
Yeah, just we had a flood from upstairs, but I don't think it's actually affected the electrics.
Oh, has it not?
No, we luckily they turned the stopcock off before anything got serious.
So it's not going to anything, no?
Not this time. No, sorry. Yeah, we was flooded 10 more times by them over 10 years. It seems to be a yearly occurrence. So our bathroom light doesn't work but that's not an emergency. You came out as an emergency.
Yeah.
And it just looks like
they've stopped it.
They stopped it, and the plumbers come out as well.
Yeah, okay. All right.
You could look at the other bathroom because they've cancelled our other appointment.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a light on us. It was just literally to take it down, so I wouldn't have been.
Okay, because they cancelled our next one. We booked a day off and everything. And
yeah, no, I wouldn't actually have it with me.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so let's take a picture of your fuse board just to show us all lights. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's in there. Can I leave you with that, Amy? Sorry, everybody.
Just in there, yeah.
Yeah, we've been flooded 10, 11 times now from our upstairs. Lovely family. So we have had an electrician just come out. Sorry, okay. So yeah, this is live, by the way, everybody. I will read out every single question. Born has wrote, do you believe the idea of good and evil is pushed on humanity so the elites do as they please? Yes, really good question. Excellent question, in fact. And the reason why it's an excellent question is because when you read the ancient tablets, the Anunnaki literally did whatever they wanted. To the sort of sick point that our elites do whatever they want as well. And you know what I'm on about when I say do whatever they want. They have little islands where they go and secretively... Yeah. So the Anunnaki did the same thing. Of course, they gave us the Ten Commandments. And if you don't believe me, the very top part of there's a couple of Ten Commandments that was apparently made, and one lot actually has the word Enki at the top of it. Watch my previous videos and you'll see what I'm on about. So when we're given the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not do this and that, and the Anunnaki can literally do whatever they want, and still women, literally the sun. Thank you, Amy. No, that's it. Thank you. So it's a brilliant question. You're top of the class for that. So yes, and I think that the elites now kind of do exactly the same as what the Anunnaki did, where they believe that they have the power to wipe us out, take whoever they want, kidnap, do whatever they want. That's my take on it. Yeah, they definitely. Yeah, brilliant question. Senzu's right. Maybe they were studying gravitational pull. I'm just trying to. Sorry, I'm trying to think what that was referring to. I don't. Sorry, Senzu. I don't know what. My brain's gone because of the person knocking. Jerk now has wrote, have you read Gerald Clark's books? I haven't. Someone did. I did listen to a couple of his couple of interviews or something with him because someone suggested look into Gerald Clark's stuff, but I've not read his books. Sorry. Born has wrote, DW means don't worry. Oh, okay. Sorry, my lingo is not as good as it used to be. Hot Rod has wrote, so much documentation that speaks louder than anything. Aliens exist and we are part of them, with a heart sign. Yeah, I mean, it's just. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. Yeah, it's just the thing is, people don't want to know. You know, they live in their own little bubble, and sadly, they do believe the mainstream TV. And of course, back in the day, I used to watch. You know, because obviously I've been researching for 40 odd years. Back in the day, anything, you know, I mean, Arthur C. Clarke's programs were brilliant because they didn't take the mick, but news programs always took the mickey. Always, you probably don't realise it, but going back in the 80s and early 90s, they would make the person look absolutely stupid. But now, it's all right on TV. Oh, well, you know, military shot down 2 unidentified. Yeah, sorry. Lynn has wrote, what do you think is coming and how soon? I hate answering these questions. Obviously, I don't just research because it unfortunately leads me to... So, I don't just research Bigfoots, aliens, etc. Because the research does lead me to the militaries or industrial military complex, as some people call it, with the elites in charge of a program. I mean, many programs, but one end goal, which is a one world order. I'm not, you know, that's been around for a very, very long time. So it's not me making that up. That's, I mean, you can even hear presidents and stuff talking about the one world order, or new world order. They're not doing it. You know, we had recently the Great Reset. This is we're in the Great Reset now, where they're squeezing us, you know, with the money for the fuel, even though they don't need to, and the heating and so on, and the cities, and they're going to be putting bars up soon. I mean, it starts with just the cameras, but eventually it will be like China. China's got bars up that you're not allowed to go through unless you've been credit scored and have been a good citizen. So it's coming. But the end goal is depopulation. You know, no doubts about that whatsoever. You know, Bill Gates has admitted it, and Christ knows how he ended up being elected as a judge, jury, and antichrist, or whatever you want to call him. But yeah, that's the game plan. How soon? We're in it now. It's just gonna get tighter and tighter. They're moving their chess pieces. If people can't see, just by looking at, you know, the news, if they can't see that these chess pieces are being moved by the elites every single day, there's something going on, not just in one particular country, but around the world. And we're just we're allowing it, you know, one chess piece move at a time. And anyway, Chris has wrote, where can I buy these tablets? Priceless. But you can look at them, absolutely. I mean, we've got 2 million of them around the world that's been uncovered. There's more being uncovered, you know, probably every month, I would say. So yeah, British Museum, they're everywhere. The universities have got them. The Louvre's got them. Museums have got them. They're literally everywhere. Borners wrote, am I the only one who finds people like Rockefellers and Rothschilds more intriguing than evil? I get what you're saying. Again, excellent point. Go number 2 in the class for that, because it's an excellent point. Because to them, in their own world, which is why I'm guessing what you're saying here, you know, that some of those have grown up. Obviously, Rockefellers, the younger ones, obviously John, wasn't into money until he was lucky enough to get into petroleum. But the Rothschilds obviously have been into money for a very long time, and probably their lineage does go back to some sort of Anunnaki state, shall we say. But yeah, I mean, to them, when they've grown up in their own little bubble and they have no idea the price of milk and things like that, they're looking at oh, if we depopulate the planet, we're going to do a good thing. They don't worry about the people that's going to be depopulated, but they see it as a good thing. So I can see why you're saying it's intriguing, because in their own little head, they're thinking they're doing the right thing. But again, who gave them the right? Just because they've got the money, who gave them the right to be our executioners? Andy's wrote why they created us. So basically, very long story, very short. They have a planet called Nibiru, or Nibiru, depends how you pronounce it, and it's in our solar system. It comes around every 3,600 years approximately. Their planet's atmosphere started dwindling, just like ours did a few years back when everyone was talking about the ozone. And they come up with the idea of sprinkling gold particles in the atmosphere, just like Bill Gates wants to do now, but with different types of chalk type dust. And they came to, long story short, they came to Earth because it had gold on it. They did try and mine the asteroid belt, apparently lost 2 ships. So when they got here, they was working for 150,000 of our years, but because they sleep 7 days, 7 nights, worked out to be about 6 months. And then in ancient tablets, we've got all this. The workers revolted. They went to I haven't actually read it out fully, but you can go read the translations. It's in the British Museum. It's called the Atrahasis tablet. Anyway, they go to, well, it's not tablet, the Atrahasis book, but it's from many different tablets. It doesn't just cover this one particular bit. Anyway, so the workers went to Enlil's house. Cut a very long story short, Enlil called Enki and Nimna, who she was called at the time, their half-sister, and said, what the hell we're going to do? Enki said, well, I've got an idea. There's some hominids. He didn't use these words, but there's some creatures here. Thank you, Senzu. There's some creatures here on, where he was working over in the Abzu, South Africa. They climb up trees. They live in trees, which is really interesting. Enough of these David Attenborough programs, when you've got tablets that are actually talking about how these creatures lived. So it could have, more than likely, Neanderthal. I might be wrong, but that's where I've gone with who I think it would be. And Enlil said, no, you're not going to create, because he said I can manipulate their DNA to make them smarter and work for us. And Enlil said 2 things. He said, one is we abolish slavery on our planet. And then Enki said, well, they won't be slaves, they'll be co-workers, which is genius. And the second thing is Enlil said, no, not in our image. Not in our... Where have you heard that before? And then Enki said, well, it's going to be in our image because we're using our essence, which is partly DNA of some description. Now, you could say, because the essence, according to... what's the word? I'm trying to remember the word. What they called when they do the alchemists. So that's it. So when alchemists take essence, they actually supposedly take it from urine, and they have to ferment it and do all this kind of stuff to it and leave it for a few years, etc. And then you end up with essence. Now, whether or not they meant essence as in that kind of essence, or whether or not they literally just meant taking DNA or stem cells or whatever but they used a clay bowl. They tried many times, failed. All this is written, literally written. I mean, who in their right mind, the first ever language, hardly anyone can read and write, and they start writing about genetically creating creatures to carry, and I've read this part out, to carry their baskets for them. Yeah, it defies belief. So that's why they created us, in their image, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, depends. I mean, but yeah, that's why they created us. Casey's right. I want to know more about Rh negative bloodlines. The best person to talk to, honestly, is the lady called Philomena. She runs the Blue Moon Sigma. I mean, I wouldn't do it justice compared to her. She knows absolutely everything. I mean, anyone will tell you how much she knows is phenomenal. She's been blocked about 4 or 5 times on TikTok because she obviously is really hitting home with what she's talking about. So if you want to follow her, Blue Moon Sigma, she's got probably her channel's now probably called Blue, I think it is, because she keeps getting blocked, so she's had to change it. But yeah, look her up, and like I say, she's got a website called. Well, you can just go to mine and find it there. It says RH negative on my website. So it's ourtruehistory.co.uk. Andy's wrote, that's the only question. I'm guessing that was the one above. John has wrote, far more plausible than God, Adam and Eve. Yeah. I mean, I know people want to believe, Adam and Eve and everything else, but when you realise where Adam and Eve were, the same place where Enki and Enlil were, is that a coincidence? Out of the whole planet, could have been, anywhere else in the whole planet. Canada, it could have been America, it could have been anywhere, but no, it had to be the same place where Enki was, which makes a lot more sense. Plus, also, they talk about Adapa, which is Adam. They even talk about Adam going up to their home planet. Adam, the one that we talk about, Adam and Eve, he went to their own planet. I've read out the tablets. You can go and research it or watch my videos. But yeah, he went up there, and King Anu, long story short, said send him back to his Earth. Again, who would write that? The first ever language, fully formed language, would write that. It just defies belief. Z Quas has wrote, just avoided my question about what the aliens are sick. I read out, trust me, I read out every single question. Now, it's possible that TikTok has blocked your comment, your question, because they do that. I'm actually scrolling back now to see what you wrote, and I can't see it. So if you could ask again, maybe spell it slightly different. Trust me, I don't avoid questions. I don't sit here just picking and choosing. I read them out, and sometimes I read them out, and I think, oh shit, excuse my language, oh crap, I shouldn't have read that out. But I do read them. I don't filter. Sherry's wrote, rhesus negative are copper based. Everyone else is gold. See, there you go. This is why everyone else knows more about rhesus negative than I do, which is why okay, that's interesting. I mean, Philomena might have said that on her thing, but she said so much that I could hardly take half of the stuff in. So thank you for that, Sherry. Born has wrote, by the way, most research I've seen on the race of Anunnaki completely contradicts your theories. Oh, please, Born, please show me where. I can't be wrong because I'm going by the tablets. So. I have I have seen many people on YouTube, etc., where I could sit there and destroy them. I don't mean to sound rude or big-headed or anything like that, but I could, but I don't, because that's not what I'm about. I don't sit there and go, oh, well. Occasionally, I've done, only because I want people to know that the people that are, out there saying certain things are not 100% accurate, so I point out where the inaccuracies are, right, even down to Dolores Cannon. So yeah, please, Born, please show me one person that says I'm wrong, and I will I'll look into it for you. Ricky Bobby's, oh crap, I have put tape over my camera because I know it makes me, when I look back, I'm just going to put a bit more tape over it. Sorry, everybody. Because every time I look away and look, it scrolls to the very bottom of the screen. So this is a lesson for anyone that actually wants to ever do a live TikTok. It scrolls to the bottom, and of course I'm reading people's questions way up. So this is live, everybody, by the way. I'm just reading every single question. Okay, I'm just going back down to Ricky Bobby's wrote, good afternoon, just as in Poltergeist, I'm back. Borners wrote, they're described like modern day black people. I thought that's where you was going, Born. You know who describes that? Who describes the Anunnaki like modern day black people? You can probably guess. Modern day black people. They want the Anunnaki to be black. Now, let's just break it down to the most simplest thing. Humans black, Anunnaki black, where do the white people come from? And I ask people this, you know what they do? They call me racist. They call me racist. Urgh! Why do they do that? What's wrong with people? So, white people come from somewhere. Guess where they come from? Middle East. That's where the first white people came from. Olive-skinned. Where were the Anunnaki? I'll give you one clue. Just watch my videos. So unfortunately, I asked for evidence. I've done about 5 videos. Every now and then I do a video saying, hi, if anyone's got any information, because I know certain people of colour want the Anunnaki to be certain colour. I'm happy to change my tune on it. But when they talk about having children and then they describe them as a colour because they bred with humans, I don't call my kids, the white kids with, pink hair or white hair or blue hair or whatever. You don't describe your kids like that. You only describe them if you have had a few different kids, which is, for example, Utu did, and some of those kids are with a human that was dark-skinned. So then when you read the tablets and they say he was the father of the black-headed, you wouldn't say that normally. And, especially from a race that's pale skin, blonde hair and blue eyes. So please, Born, please show me the evidence and don't say, look at their lips. That's what I get. Look at their beard and look at their lips. That's what I get. We're talking about an alien race that they're trying to match to say that that's how they look. Bearing in mind they genetically modified a hominid species to look like them. So we're saying that just because it looks like them, that we have to have their skin colour, even though the first human that they created that actually came out fine was they described as red as the clay, and the second one, which was a female, had sand colour hair and looked like them. Instead of saying she was also red or brown. So there's too many incidences, and of course Noah was Enki's child, and of course he had bright skin and would glow. In fact, the description was it was glowing and his eyes were like the sky. So I asked again, Born, give me the evidence. Don't tell me to look at someone's YouTube channel. Don't tell me to look at their noses and their lips and their beards. We're talking about an alien race. Show me the evidence. Lit has wrote, happy Friday, yo. Oh, thank you. Casey's wrote, happy Friday back to you. Casey's wrote, I also do have royalty in my bloodline. Interesting. I wonder how far that goes back. Ricky Bobbies wrote 440,000 years ago. I'm guessing that was regarding the Anunnaki coming here. Born has wrote Adamu, Marduk, etc. Modern day white people are said to be Palladians. These are people that... Okay. I could just make up something right now. Redheads are said to be almighty lovers, and that anyone that makes a joke of them goes to hell. I'm just throwing it out there because if we're going to go through different colours, I might as well pick redheads. You see what I'm saying? So when sorry, Katie, I know you want to join, but as Christ knows how many messages I've got to get to, and I do 99, it says plus. So when you say modern day white people are said to be Palladians, you know who says that, don't you? You can probably guess. So I'll leave it with you. But if you show me the evidence, because I go by evidence, and there's none to say that they're Palladians. Sorry, don't hate me. Casey's wrote, very interesting. Kara's wrote, so did they create us to mine gold? Will they be back? Yes, they created us to mine gold, and they're already back. They're already dealing with our military according to whistleblowers. So they're not going to come back and take over and whatever. At the end of it, after the flood, long story short, but basically their king Anu came down and said, let us inherit the earth, which is very similar to what's in the Bible, if I remember correctly. So they're not going to come and take over the earth or anything like that. Run from the Livings wrote, could they have been time travelers instead of aliens? What, the Anunnaki? No, because they literally talk about their planet's moons smashed into a planet called Tiamat, which then created Earth, the moon, and the asteroid belt. So they were fully aware from their own home planet. So for them to have been time travelers, they would have had to have been here and then left here, gone onto their planet that was outside our solar system and came in as a rogue planet. No, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks for asking though. Amy's wrote, hello there from Arizona. Hi there. Thank you for joining. This is live, everybody. I'm reading every single question, so hold on there. If you are interested in any of the videos I've done and you don't want to scroll all the way to the bottom of the TikTok with my 1,000-odd videos, ourtruehistory.co.uk's got them all on there. Just they're in sets of 5 and 50, so you can just watch them easy. And also you can get to them from YouTube from there. JYE wrote, can we be reincarnated into a Bigfoot or an alien? Excellent question. It sounds a stupid question, but it's not. It's an excellent question. Absolutely excellent question. And the answer is yes. If you believe people that have been hypnotized or regressed. So, as you know, I look into all this kind of stuff as well. That's why I've done on my Patreon page a 4-hour documentary on everything you need to know about spirits, and that includes reincarnation. So yes, so people that have been regressed have said that they were not necessarily little greys. I've never heard anyone saying they were greys, but I've heard someone say there was a praying mantis. I've heard stories that Bigfoots have been seen with the orbs. So yes, I would probably say yes to that. Casey's wrote, can you say that name again? The name again. I'm not sure what that name was. Was it? I'll throw some names out. I'm not sure what I was talking about at that point. Zachariah Sitchin, Lost Book of Enki. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not sure what I was talking about. I'm just gonna have a swig of drink. Okay, and moving on. Next question. Sorry, I don't know what I was talking about at that point. Kira's wrote, and why is it that not all of us share the Rh negative blood type? Because so Anunnaki came here, genetically modified hominids, more than likely Neanderthal. Neanderthal also bred with other hominids. The humans that the Anunnaki created also bred with the other hominids. And then the Anunnaki bred with the humans, and then those humans then bred with the other hominids. So literally everyone was breeding with absolutely everyone else. And we've got, fossils and skeletons and all sorts of things that, if you believe mainstream, are true. So literally everyone was doing it with everyone. So that's why, and of course the Rh negative would have only really been from the Anunnaki. So down the line where, people were breeding with others, then you may have lost that. Some people may have, be a direct descendant of the Anunnaki, but not necessarily direct in terms of one of their parents being a different one and change their blood change into whatever I guess dominant. I don't know if that's the right word. Again, Blue Moon Sigma will answer all these questions. She knows absolutely everything. The Big Joe has wrote, careful who's at the door. Oh God, am I that far behind? Thank you though. Matthias has wrote, it's the feds. Born has wrote, you can mute it. Sorry, I didn't know if I could. I was panicking. It's only me wrote, someone came for the 20 bag. No, I don't do that kind of stuff. Mathis wrote, two tall guys in suits. Yeah, Men in Black. Borners wrote, Men in Black are at your house. Yeah. The one and only wrote, oh, bugger. It scrolled all the way to the bottom. Sorry, this is live. I hate TikTok for this. It's not designed for people reading out everyone's questions. Sorry, I'm just trying to get up to where I was. Sorry, I will try and be a lot quicker. Oh, wow. Sorry, there's a lot of questions, but I will try and get to them. Scrolling back down to where can I buy the tablets? I'm just reading out the questions now. Men in Black are at the house, nearly there. John had wrote, I thought it was Enki coming over for a beer. Although they do drink beer, yeah, you're right. Someone's chatting to someone. Matthias has wrote, so when did the aliens start to mix our DNA? 100,000. Well, three. Well, okay, which different aliens? So the Anunnaki, 300,000 years ago in South Africa, started to create the 7 males and 7 females. Then later on, after the flood, there's texts that talk about Enki manipulating to create certain people to do certain jobs, pharaohs or priests or oracles or builders or musicians even. And then obviously down the line, about in my research, about 3000 BC is when the little greys started to come and started manipulating DNA as well. The one and only has wrote, now you're thinking. Run from the Livings wrote, could they have been timed? I read that one. Bournes wrote, sounds like the elites are playing Anunnaki instead of playing God. Could be right. Winnie's wrote, evening boss. Hi Winnie, hope you're well and your family's well. X has wrote Anunnaki, and then X has wrote, yes, humans are made by ETs. Spot on, yeah. CL1427's put loads of laughing faces. I'm guessing they don't believe a word I say, but probably believe everything that mainstream media tell them. Born has wrote, could I have the source on the Anunnaki doing what they want? I'm very interested. Literally just go to the Ox. I know you put loads of laughing faces. I'm guessing I'll take it in a humorous way that you're putting the laughing faces because you want to figure out how to do it. But literally just read the ancient translations of how Enki would, have relationships with his daughter, and then the daughter's daughter, and then the daughter's daughter, and then the daughter's daughter. Because of that, just because of that alone, you can see the longevity of their life, which is why everyone thought that Elohim gods were immortal, because they had a longer lifespan than us, because their planet has a different year cycle to ours. They call it a Shah. Senzu's right. Maybe they were studying gravitational pull when they made up the planet gods. Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. So because the Anunnaki call planets deities, what makes them call them planets, I guess. I hate TikTok. It keeps scrolling me down to the bottom. Sorry, I just did it again. I swear it's probably my eyes, even though I've covered the screen over. I'm going to put a sock over the top part. Sorry, that'll teach it. There you go. Now, let's see if that does it again. Sorry, everybody. Thank you, whoever's gave me likes and whatever else. I do this for fun. Sherry's wrote, I just muted someone. When someone gets muted, it does scroll me to the very bottom. So apologies to everybody for that. But obviously, Sherry's doing an amazing job of shutting some numpty up, I'm guessing. Sorry, nearly there. Going all the way back to the top. Sorry. Oh wow, there's some good questions coming up, everybody. You've probably seen them yourselves already, but I'm behind. But secret weapons, okay, we're getting there, nearly there again. Reincarnated in a Bigfoot, nearly there. Ritz the Biz has wrote, I love your channel. There is a lot of answers that the Bible can't answer. Your version makes sense. Thank you. And I'm learning a lot from you as well, because you obviously talk about the Quran. And I've seen some of your posts and stuff, which makes sense because it matches what the Anunnaki did. So, yeah, it's great. Thank you. a couple of people chatting to each other, so I haven't read that out. Dion has wrote the truth will be coming out soon. I worry about the truth coming out because when the truth comes out, that's the end of the end game. Because obviously, let's imagine it wasn't the end game, and it's like the truth comes out. Oh, by the way, everybody, we allowed people to be abducted by aliens. Yeah, we lied to you about absolutely everything. Yeah, we've got anti-gravity technology. Yes, we don't need fossil fuels anymore, but we're still charging you. Yeah, we've lied about absolutely everything, but it's for your own safety. They're not going to do it. It's going to be the end game when they tell us, because we ain't going to be around shortly after that. Z Quas has wrote, am I the only one who doesn't believe this? I do not know, but obviously if you don't... The question is, Z Quas, is how much have you actually looked into it? If it's just off your gut feeling, that's fine. But if you've spent time researching it and you've not come to this conclusion, then I would more than happy help you, point you to the right direction. But I mean, 2 million tablets all talking about the same sort of thing, about Enlil Enki, suddenly a fully fledged language, knowing about asteroid belts, knowing about a rogue planet coming into our solar system. We didn't even know what a solar system was, Zequas. You telling me that the first ever language knew about a solar system? Really? I look up in the sky, it's black. How the hell would the first ever people that could read or write talk about a rogue planet coming in with 4 moons and smashing into another planet? Really? Mickey's wrote, hey, yes, happy that you're live. We love listening to you. Oh, bless you. I have a video of a mountaintop cut off and this is interesting, I'd love to know more. I'm trying to find the next bit. I'll have to find it after. Somewhere in infinity is where are octopuses aliens. Well, I have done a video showing that the Anunnaki did bring species here to Earth, goats, etc. And the ones that they seem to have brought all had those slit eyes. And octopuses is something that is obviously in the ocean. And Enki was the lord of the ocean. And as Zeus, he created many creatures, and including the octopus. Obviously, he might not have created it; he may have just brought it, and of course, the translations and whatever else see it as. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible that octopus, in my opinion, come from their planet, and their planet is majority water. Again, similar to ours. It seems like they only had... Thank you, Pandera. It seems like they only had 2 land masses. They may have obviously had little islands, but the 2 warring factions on their planet had 2 land masses. But from everything that I've read and heard and everything else, I think it was a majority of it was water. Thank you, Pandora. You don't have to, Pandora. Mickey's wrote huge arch door window. Not sure what that was referring to. Thank you, Pandora. You really don't have to. Ritz the Business wrote, can you be 100% sure that aliens exist today after the Anunnaki have left? Not sure which way round you mean. Can I be sure aliens exist? In my own mind, I'm 110% sure aliens exist out there in our in our solar system, flying around, doing things, coming here, etc. I totally believe that. Whether they're interdimensional, I know people say they're interdimensional. We don't know if there's a second dimension yet. I believe there's a second dimension, but obviously these entities that have come here and have spoke to telepathically, spoke to abductees, etc., have given locations of where they're from. So I would say yes, for sure. There's definitely aliens around. Thank you, Pandora. You really don't have to. I appreciate it. Dion's wrote Agenda 2030. Correct. You've obviously done your homework. Dion's wrote QFS system being implemented. Yeah, it's sad. I'm glad people know, but it's sad, isn't it? Winnie's wrote, why is the panda not on the Chinese calendar? Just curious. I don't know the answer to that. I've not looked into that, I'm afraid. There's probably someone smarter than me that would know the answer to that. Although saying that, the giant panda was only found fairly recently, I think in 1968 or something like that. So maybe that's why. Not sorry, the one and only is wrote. There is a divine creator, no matter what anyone believes. Good luck to everyone. Well, the Anunnaki talks about the creator of everything, but the Bible talks about the Anunnaki. So a lot of people get very confused on that. Now, what the creator of everything is that the Anunnaki talk about, I have no idea. It could be a computer code. It could be an almighty being. It could be I have no idea. Just scrolling down, people chatting to each other. Run from the livings. How do you trust translations? There are multiple translations for these tablets. Yes, there is. Good. No, it's an excellent question. Go number 3 in the class for that. Well done. There is. So, for example, if you go to the Oxford University website and look up the translations, you've got all the different names of the people that's gone back over and changed it, where now with more modern knowledge, etc., or for whatever reason they've. But you can actually click on the thing and see the footnotes of why they've changed it and stuff. So, yeah, there is more than one person translating these tablets, not just Sitchin, even though people seem to think it's always just Sitchin. Ricky's wrote Skyrocks. You think they used to be tablets of Enki? Shane has just given me a rose. Thank you, Shane. Ricky, Skyrocks question mark. You think they used to be tablets of Enki? I'm not sure what you mean, Skyrocks. I don't know what Skyrocks is. I'm sorry, my brain's trying to rattle what Skyrocks is. I don't know what that means. Sorry, don't hate me. The one and only is right. If I told you your mortal form would explode, I can barely look in that direction. Sorry, not sure what that means. Amy's wrote, any tablets in Ireland going there soon? I mean, there's not in cuneiform tablets that I'm aware of. No, that's obviously because they stayed around the Middle East, which is where the Anunnaki set up base originally. I mean, Ireland's got some good history behind it. Some very good history. Obviously, you've got the High Brazil, and you've got the Causeway as well with the giants and stuff. So there's some good history, but not necessarily connected directly to the Anunnaki. But it has got some very good history after the Anunnaki. Still to do kind of with them, but like obviously the giants and stuff. So yeah, but you wouldn't find cuneiform tablets there. Linda's wrote, I'm seeing a bunch of court cases which will expose all the eugenics warlords down. I hope so, but again, money pays for people to, and they, again, depending on who's the, they actually pick who they want, certainly in the States, who they want to be the High Justice or whatever it's called. And they pick them because they know that they can control them. So, Winnie's wrote, hope you are all growing your own fruit and veg. That's because of what's coming. In fact, didn't I read somewhere here in the UK that they're trying to outlaw that now as well? Let's say it's a chess game. Jason's wrote, monkey missing link. We can't evolve, and there's monkey and human same time, no link, altered DNA. So I'll try and read that. Monkey missing link. We can't evolve, and there's monkey and human same time, no link, altered DNA. Well, when you say monkey and human, yeah, of course, the Neanderthals, just because the Anunnaki created humans from the Neanderthal and actually bred them out of Nimna's womb, not all of them, just a few that fouled, and then finally the first one, and then they got 6 other Anunnaki women, so you end up with 7 mothers, as they call it. in the ancient times. But yeah, that, I mean, of course, the Neanderthals stayed around while the humans were doing the work for the Anunnaki, and of course, then the humans bred and bred and bred. HB has wrote, do you know anything about bio ALS such as animals? I don't, I'm afraid. You've got me on that. I'm sure there's someone out there that probably knows what you're talking about. I mean, I don't, sorry. Born has wrote, this is live, everybody. I'm going through every single question as quick as I can. Born has wrote, they claim they descend from Vlad the Impaler. Not sure what I was talking about, but yeah, I have heard that about Vlad. Thank you, Shane. About the old Vlad. Yeah. Gaseous has wrote the Anunnaki gods. I'm guessing you're referring to the thing at the back. Thank you, Sheba, for the rose. You really don't have to. I literally, but I appreciate that you're showing appreciation. Thank you. Michelle's wrote. I have to translate it. Sorry, everybody. Translate. Are these beings who walk beside us from other planets or from other dimensions? Well, the Anunnaki were from our dimension. Greys, the Zetas come from Zeta Reticuli. The Orion Greys and the Tall Whites come from Orion. Alpha Draconis Dracos come from the Alpha Draconis system. So Palladians come from the Palladian system, and so on. So there probably is alien species that's interdimensional, but the main sort of over and over are, normal ones that are here, if that makes sense. Lynn has wrote Biden being investigated and all the rest of them. Yeah, they'll get away with whatever. Ritz has wrote, I think the Anunnaki were Muslims, hence their beards. Thing is, there was no such thing as Muslim when the Anunnaki were here. And again, I think might be worth switching it around. Instead of saying the Anunnaki were Muslim, because Muslims have beards now, shouldn't it be the people had beards because they copied, same as head binding, by the way, they copied their leaders, their gods, Elohim, whatever you want to call them, the Anunnaki. So they had beards, and beards was a huge thing, absolutely huge for them. And that's why when Abel killed Cain, they genetically did something to him so he wouldn't grow a beard. That's shame. So when humans over in the Middle East were growing beards because the Anunnaki were, it's a thing they did. Doesn't mean that it was religious in any shape or form back then. Religion came into it way later. So yeah, sorry, it just scrolled all the way to the bottom again. This is live. I'm trying to go through all the questions as quick as possible, but TikTok's crap at doing this kind of thing. Sorry, I'm going back up to the questions. I've even got a sock over the camera, so I don't know why it scrolls all the way to the bottom. Because I thought it might be to do with the eyes. I'm still scrolling up while I'm talking. Trust me, I'm trying to go as quick as I can. Skyrocks, okay, back up. Anunnaki gods, Biden, beards. Oh, sorry, almost nearly scrolled all the way to the bottom again. Other dimensions. Someone, Michelle, or forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I have to translate it. I already asked, but they don't answer that. I'm guessing you're saying I don't answer questions. I do. It's just may not have got to yours yet. Flora's wrote, who created humans? It was a race called the Anunnaki. Literally, we've got tablets that talk about it. They created the buildings that we can't create now. They created the first ever language, suddenly fully fledged. They talked about things that we didn't even know about planets, solar systems and stuff. Too much. They even talked about the firmament, which isn't a dome. It's not. Don't even get me started on that. It's just the layer between Earth and space where it suddenly, literally, almost suddenly, turns weightlessness. And that's not me saying that, that's from an astronaut. I know people's going to say, NASA lies, no one's been into space because of the firmament. Just scrolling down. TikTok has wrote, where's your proof? Feel free to watch my videos. I point to exactly where all the translations are, and all the proof you ever need. So yeah, obviously I'm not going to sit here and go through it all again, but I have already pointed out many places where you can get the proof from. We've got the tablet. I know I go on about this one, but we've got in the British Museum, we've got the tablet where God tells Noah to build an ark. But it's not God. It's Enki. It is Enki. It says Enki. Not God, not Lord. Enki. So, that predates the Bible. So either the Bible just happens decided to make it up, or that one, Enki's one, made it up. And I know which one I'll always go with, the original. Papa's wrote, oh, you, and then in brackets, researched, laugh out loud, what scientific papers did you read? So we've got a non-believer here called Papa Slim, everybody. He's probably gone now. So the thing is, Papa Slim, if I, and I've done this, you watch my videos, I've destroyed people that have scientific papers behind them. Most notably the Egyptologist who had her own series as well, TV series, where the first thing she said on that program was, here is the pyramid of Khufu, the last resting place of King Khufu, or Pharaoh Khufu, which was wrong. That's before she even started the program, literally. It was the first few words she said was wrong. You know why she's wrong? Because and I traced back, guess what? Of course I do, because I do my research, even though you put it in inverted comments and then put laugh out loud. She worked for an institute, or university, that was funded by the Rockefellers. So I know which one, that's why I wouldn't do the papers. So being a numpty like you are, Papa Slim, when you realise that you will be told what to say, there's researchers out there that have lost their, I think it's called tenure, etc., because they realise that, or professors even that have tried to teach what we're, and then they get sacked. So, if you genuinely, Papa Slim, if you genuinely believe that the institutions are 100% accurate and do not lie, then I've got some fresh air I can sell you. Michelle's, I've got to translate again. In fact, they say they are here, but in another dimension. I don't know if I believe. Well, the problem is we don't have evidence, because I go by evidence, we don't have evidence of a second dimension. We have evidence of our one because we're here, but I do believe there's a second one. Daryl's wrote, Riley Martin said similar. I don't know who Riley Martin is, sorry. Deanna's wrote, ancient times tell us everything. They do. I mean, even India. I know I keep going on about India, but the carvings in the temples in India, there's a temple that's actually got the evolution of humans, actually through, or not just, well, evolution of Earth, should I say, species on Earth, and we are not the top one. We're the second from top. So, it goes through fish and mammals and everything. And this is India's temples built, Christ, how long ago? I can't tell you how long ago exactly, because, as you know, carbon dating stone isn't really possible, so they kind of guesstimate. But to actually have carvings of evolution, so before our friend, what's his name? You'll know, the guy that does the... Oh, my brain's gone. You're all shouting at the screen. Oh, everyone's shouting at the screen. You know the guy, Darwin. There we go, got it. Before Darwin talked about evolution, there is a temple in India that actually shows evolution. How's that work? Genius. So that's why I say, yeah, ancient. You're right, Diana. Ancient times do tell us everything. It's just as it says in Gremlins, to hear, one has only to listen. Run from the Livings wrote the clay tablet. How are they translated? How do you know the correct ones? Well, long story short, basically we found. When I say we, I didn't find it, but they found clay tablets up in a cave. Very long story short, which had the same writing but in 3 different languages. So that's the first clue. Then once they worked out that it's basically like a Rosetta Stone, once they worked out what they could learn from that, then because they could read the other 2 languages, then they also found in tablets dictionaries, clay dictionaries, and they could then marry up with what they learned. And so now it's, again, the British Museum actually offers people to go there and learn. I mean, you can learn it online if you want to. So it's not, it's not a secret club that people can't learn. And this is what frustrates the crap out of me, when you get people saying Sitchin's wrong. And I say, you could go and frickin' learn the language yourself. But they don't. So they say that a researcher's wrong because they're numpties. They're not going to go and research it. But it's not a hidden. Sitchin didn't hide the tablets and translate them and say, shh, everybody, look, Enki, lived for, 1,000,000 years or 500,000 years or whatever. He didn't do that. It's in the tablets. Like I say, I've read out the tablets where Enki's literally had children with his children, with his children, with his children, with his children. I'm not that old. I couldn't do that. So, yeah. So that's how we know they're correct ones. Gregory's wrote Enki created us. Obviously, Gregory's done his homework as well. Brilliant. Goddesses wrote reptilians. I'm guessing that's a question. So my research, I know there's other people out there that will say there's reptilians, even though there's no real evidence of reptilians, and they'll just point you to snakes and things like that. So in my research, certainly the Anunnaki are not reptilians, absolutely not. But there is mention of serpents in cuneiform tablets, but it doesn't. There's also mention of cows, goats, locusts. So it doesn't necessarily mean there was reptilians back then. So yeah, I've gone through the whole process of, are they in the inner earth? Are they there? Da, 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 da. I've gone through all of that, done all the research, and just can't find the evidence to say back in antiquity that there was a reptilian race here on Earth. Virginia's wrote what aliens? So an alien race called the Anunnaki, which actually they're not called Anunnaki. The race is actually called Elohim, which I know religious people are going to go, no, it's not, but it is. If you actually do your homework, which no one bothers doing, you'll find that it means plural. It means, and the Old Testament actually had it correct. The Old Testament talked about them in their image and stuff like that. But of course, people want to believe the more modern, man-made version of the Bible, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. If you're going to go buy something, go buy it. Well, not buy, but if you're going to look into something, go buy the original. So for me, I would go back to the Old Testament and say, hang on a minute, why does it say they created it in their image? And why is God also called Lord? Because the race name is Elohim, but Lord Enki was the great Lord. But there was other lords. Yes, there was, which is why you end up with lords in India as well, Lord Shiva, etc. So yeah, it's an alien race basically called Elohim. They came here. We look like them. I hate saying they look like us. We look like them because of their genetic modifications. Xers wrote the reptilians and Lyrians have been at war for thousands of years. See, this is what a particular researcher, I'm only going to say his first name, Billy, has come out with. He did it on a video, and he said billions of years ago, there's the two races at war on Earth. yada yada yada. And I said, on his, I know I don't want to knock people, but I said, look, Billy, you're going to have evidence for this, because otherwise people like me will pull you up on it. Of course, he never replied. So when X's wrote, and I'm not knocking you X's, because obviously there's bad researchers out there. When someone writes the reptilians and the Lyrians have been at war for thousands of years, there's zero evidence of that whatsoever. It's just see, I could start something now, because hopefully people trust what I say. I could make up something now. I could say, the Skaranas are at war with the poo-poo heads. And if I say it enough, some of you guys will then repeat it on someone else's podcast, and they'll repeat it, and they'll repeat it, and before you know it, you'll get the reptilians and Lyrians have been at war for thousands of years without any evidence. So it's sorry, it's not you, it's me. X has wrote, yes, Enki. Constance Fenton has wrote, I have read and heard it all now. Holy cow. Hopefully you have read it all. If you've read it all, instead of just sitting there listening to me and believing that you know everything, I would say well done for going and read it all. But let's be honest, what you're actually saying is, you think what I'm talking about is a load of crap, and the 2 million tablets talking about some princes, first ever language, you know the score. Skin Deep has wrote 100%, and X's wrote speaking facts. Thank you very much. There's no. See, the thing is, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've been on radio stations. I've wrote books, even though I don't tell people. I've put my time into this, and I've got 1,000 odd videos out there now. I've got loads of different videos on my Patreon page as well, and I've not had anyone say I'm wrong, or I have had people say I'm wrong, and I say no problem. Just explain where I'm wrong. And you know what? They don't come back to me because I'm not wrong. And I don't want to sound big. I can't be wrong if A, I say I believe something, that's just my own belief, and B, if I actually point to where the evidence is, I can't be wrong because the evidence is there. So, yeah, sorry, I know I waffle on. Wayne Knepp has wrote, they are the reasons for the missing link in our evolution. Correct, yes, spot on. Yeah, I mean, how religious people can't say, hang on a minute, we have got a missing link. Suddenly, from hominids to Homo sapiens, suddenly we appeared, and then they think, hang on a minute, the Old Testament says God created, or God's created humans in their image and in their likeness, their plural. You just need to sit back, but of course people don't want to do that. They want people. The thing is, someone said to me once, they said, "Are humans a race of followers?" And I was taken back by that because I thought, no, I'm not a follower, and but I think there is people that want to join. Like dogs are a pack animal. I think we have an innate wanting for something bigger than ourselves. And is that because of the Anunnaki? I don't know. Is that because they fused 2 of our chromosomes, number 23 and 24, I believe it is? Is that because that we blindly follow something? I don't know. But there's certainly, we do blindly follow things, unfortunately. Look at the last 2 years. How we all or some people blindly followed what they were told. Anakin has wrote, Anunnaki story is earlier, similar to the Bible. Correct, yes. The Anunnaki story predates the Bible. We even have the tablets that say about the 6 days and the 7th day of rest. So the Bible doesn't have that. We have that. The tablets, the Bible obviously talks about God wanting to rest, but the tablets talk about Enki wanting to rest and declares the 7th day as a day of rest from that point on. And that makes sense. That makes sense because when the Anunnaki sleep for 7 days and 7 nights, having one day is minimal, but that would be a little break for them here on Earth, if you get what I'm saying. So when they catalogue things for 7 days and 7 nights, more than likely 7 nights as well, or 6 days and 6 nights, when they catalogue things, and then on the 7th day they wanted a rest, or Enki said, let this day be a day of rest, it makes so much more sense than an almighty being getting tired and then saying, I'm going to have a rest. I know which one I'll go with. I'll go with the older tablet that makes more sense. Sorry, it did scroll down to the very bottom again. I am trying to go up. This is live, everybody. I'm trying to read everything as quick as I can, but TikTok is really bad at this. Sorry, I'm trying to go as quick as I can. If while I'm trying to go up, I do have other lives where I've talked about Bigfoots or spirits and things, all sorts of things, portals and time travel. I do look into all these in quantum mechanics and stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of these other live chats, they're either on my website or on YouTube. Just look for outtruehistory.co.uk and you can get to it from there. Sorry, just scrolling up. I hate not getting to your questions quick enough. Forgive me. But I have to give enough evidence. Otherwise, if I just said, yes, aliens are real, blah, 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 and just moved on, I'd get a lot more people saying I'm, lying and stupid and whatever else. Okay, nearly there. Sorry, nearly there. Yeah, here we are, found it. Kev has wrote, you mean aliens created people that got triple V? Laugh out loud, so funny. Deanna's wrote, a new world is coming, but those who are well will be the only ones allowed. Ron has wrote, sorry to skip over that, Deanna, it's just obviously it's a sad subject, isn't it? Ron has wrote, what the heck? Welcome, Ron, hopefully you're still here. And what happens, everybody, is I get people at the beginning where they laugh at me and stuff, and they actually, some of them stay. And by half hour, an hour, they're actually asking me sensible questions instead of saying I'm stupid. They're actually asking me sensible questions, and that's because they realise, their brain starts thinking, hang on a minute, it does make a lot of sense. And if the tablets are there and da 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 da. Top Secrets wrote, and heaven, sky, space. Correct. Heaven is space. Spot on. That was that's what it is. We know that, and just for those people that's listening in, we know that because even the Bible, I can go by the tablets, but even the Bible says, in heaven, we can see the sun, the moon, and the stars. Think about it for a sec while I move on to the next question. What? Run from the Living Throat. How are these tablets translated? How many translations are there? Oh, loads. Yeah, like I say, Zachariah Sitchin's translated tablets that's already been translated by other people. So yeah, loads. Again, just type in cuneiform translations, and you'll find many translations of some. Like I say, the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's many translations of that, and the one that I think is closest to the actual correct translations would be Zachariah Sitchin's versions, where he's talking about it in the Lost Book of Enki. So, but yeah, only because he's got more knowledge than older people, back 100 years ago, in terms of understanding what the translations meant. Virginia's wrote, what do you think we're hybrids? We are, yeah. We've got 2 fused chromosomes. Now, I know if you go away and look up fused chromosomes, you'll see that apparently some animals have fused chromosomes. However, I've looked for the actual peer-reviewed papers that show that, and I can't find it. Also, about a month, maybe 2 months ago, I did a TikTok video where I show, and you can go and research this yourself, that scientists had recently, this was on a news article, recently fused mice chromosomes exactly the same way we did it in a laboratory setting. So they're doing it, and they're doing that to create a different type of mice or whatever they needed to do for it. But yeah, so you can fuse chromosomes in a laboratory setting, which is what we, in my opinion, have got. Squirrels just wrote, or aliens act. Not sure what I was talking about at that point. Sorry, it's only me as wrote their God with a big G and gods with a little g. Again, Bible does talk about. I mean, I can point to stuff that the Bible copies from the older tablets, but is there an almighty being that the Bible's not talking about that the Anunnaki talked about? Well, the little greys also say there's a source and creation, so yeah, there could be an almighty thing, but it's certainly not what the Bible's talking about. Triples wrote, they engineered us. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. We're a great example of that. Spot on. Yeah, I'll tell you what, go number 2 in the class for that. Brilliant. Because I say that myself a lot about the things that we do, AI and everything. Just because we can doesn't mean we should, lose jobs because we can now, but we do. And yeah, spot on. Florence has wrote, is Enki an alien? Yes, Enki, Enki. His original name before he came here was Ea, E-A. And so yes, he was given that title when he was Enki, when he basically drew the short straw. There was, again, we've got the actual. Sorry, I go off, don't I? But yes, he drew the short straw and ended up in Africa. No racist comments, please. There was no people back in Africa at that point, so don't go there and say, oh, he drew the short straw because he had to go African. It was a lovely country. He drew the short straw because he had to be the one that was mining in Africa. That's the short straw. Whereas Enlil stayed in Mesopotamia, Eridu, and King Anu went back to his own planet. So Enki had the harder work. And if it wasn't technically for Enki, we wouldn't be here now. I mean, when I say technically, absolutely. If it wasn't for Enki, us as this race wouldn't be here now trying to kill ourselves by depopulation. Virginia's wrote 2033, actually. I'm not sure if that's what the depopulation, I'm not sure what that was referring to. Ritz says, Anunnaki had godly powers using their thoughts to create things. I've not come across anything like that whatsoever. I mean, I've read the tablets where they're talking about buildings and how they built the buildings and, how they had to mine for things. So if they could create things with their mind, I guess they probably wouldn't need to do all the work that they did that I've read. So I don't think they can. Squirrels has wrote, I mean, you got to remember the people that would have wrote about the Anunnaki way down the line, as when they've learnt, how to read and write, would look at them as almighty beings. A, the longevity of their life. B, they could fly around and craft. C, they were 8 to 12 foot tall. D, they were revered because not all the time they actually would come out and walk down the streets. Then, down the line when they went to Greece, and was known as Poseidon and whatnot. Then the demigods walked down the street naked, the offsprings, and they did their weights and whatever else. But so these gods that were revered and had temples was just like we're doing now. People go to church, they haven't seen a god. God doesn't talk to them, but they make up these stories in their heads. And trust me, I listened to a radio station called Advantaged, I think it's called. It was basically a religious radio station, and I listened to that. And where they don't know the answers to things, they basically make up stuff. And I find it fascinating to see how they portray this almighty thing. It's like the angels, which obviously we all know as messengers, Anunnaki messengers. But on these radio stations that I listen to, where they're talking about, they come out with things like, the angels could do this and do that, and they manifest themselves, and this and that. They just make up a load of crap. And I think that's probably what happened in the past, where you've just sort of said Anunnaki had godly powers. They didn't, but we make up crap, and and it gets passed down the line and people believe it. Squirrels all day has wrote, or are aliens actually humans from a different dimension? Again, we've got planets. We can physically see the planets. I don't know why people do that. They not you, but I have had other people saying all aliens are from a different dimension. Literally, we've got other planets in our universe, and instead of saying, you know what, they could have probably come from another planet somewhere else, they say they come from a different dimension. Why? Why say that when we've physically got planets? We're on a bloody planet. Why now take that away and say, oh, well, all aliens come from different dimensions? We don't even know there's a second dimension. For a fact. So why I don't know, it just gets me. Sweetings, anyone remember 150 years ago? Always believe what you're told and read. I'm not that old. Sorry, I don't remember 150 years ago. UGOs wrote humans evolved. Not sure if you're saying that there was no such thing as aliens creating humans, and that suddenly humans evolved from hominid to Homo sapiens, which is actually, if you ask Sherry, she'll tell you 2 different species. Tamara Khan has wrote, I'm Anunnaki. Looking at your picture, I probably wouldn't have said you are. Kira's wrote, so are the Anunnaki a patriotic, or were there women in power that travelled to Earth as well? Excellent question. Go number 2 in the class for that. No one's asked me that. I have done a video on the Anunnaki women out of my 1,050 videos that's now on TikTok and on my website, outtruehistory.co.uk. So Inanna, I use Inanna because basically the Anunnaki is male run, unfortunately. That's probably where we get it from. It is, unfortunately. Inanna was slightly an exception to the cause, and I think the reason why is, first of all, she was the, I think, granddaughter or great-granddaughter of Enlil, so she was in power in terms of in line for the throne if loads of other Anunnaki died before her. But also, she was absolutely stunning, according to, well, she ended up being, in Greece, she ended up being Aphrodite. When King Anu came down at one point, he gave her his chariot. They had a chariot for him. They call them chariots, but spaceship. So King Anu came down after the flood. They built him this 7-story. It's all written down. In fact, we've got the evidence of these 7 stories of a ziggurat. Where, anyway, so he came down, they built on this massive structure for King Anu, and he was enamoured with Inanna. She was also known as Ishtar. He was enamoured with her, same as Enki was as well, dirty sods. So when he left, he gave her his chariot and he gave her the tower. And also, when they divided up the lands, which is also in the Greek mythology as well, or Greek history, should I say, and they had straws, again, they divided up the lands. Inanna got the Indus Valley in India. So she had power, a hell of a lot of power. In fact, so much power that she tried to destroy Marduk with weapons, which is where the Atlantis sank, but forget. Watch my. If you want to know about Atlantis, let me know. But yeah, basically, at exactly the same time that the ancient tablets talk about her going around bombing places, is exactly the same point when Thoth, which was Ningizida, which was an Anunnaki, then got warned off of the place that he was at. And I've done a video on my pinned videos, so just go watch that. It shows you where I believe Atlantis was, and compared to anywhere else, trust me, it's not the Rickett structure, which has got 0 evidence. I've got actually a stone walls in concentric circles. The Rickett structure in South Africa, or the Eye of Sahara as they call it, there's no stone. There's no stone walls in concentric circle with lakes between them. I've got that in my where I point to, and it's sunk, whereas the Rickett structure hasn't sunk. So anyway, I know I digress on that, but Right, okay, okay, sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. I don't know if that's because the amount of... So this is live, everybody. I do read out every single question, but I have to give enough facts that you don't think I'm stupid. So I've scrolled all the way back to the top, but I've missed a chunk now because I think there's maybe only so many messages are allowed, so forgive me. It's not my intention. I do try and read it out. So Paul has wrote, watch movies much. In other words, thinks I'm making up crap. No problem at all. Just explain how 2 million tablets, first ever language. Son of Zeus has wrote, I love Enki. Interesting. Cool name, Son of Zeus, because obviously you probably know Zeus was Enlil in the Greek times. Seventh note is wrote, Earth flat or round? Round. I've got a pinned video on my TikToks that 0 people have answered. Until someone can answer that, then it's round, but it is round. And the only reason why they think it's flat is, I don't know, they shoehorn all these answers in, but I don't know why they... Again, just because it's the same as these people that debunk UFOs, they make CGI versions of it, and they say, look, they could have been done by this. Just because you can recreate something, we can recreate dinosaurs on film, doesn't mean that's how dinosaurs were around in the first place. So yeah, Meta Maid has wrote, who are angels? So angels, and this is a fact, absolute 100% fact. The Hebrew translation of angels is messenger. So messenger is what they were. They weren't angelic beings. The Hebrews called them angels. Now the messengers, we've got the tablets that say the messenger did this, the messenger did that. So we know what they did because we've got the original tablets. So obviously people with rose-tinted glasses look at angels and archangels. If you actually do the homework, you'll find that they're the ones that were pilots or sort of commanders, leaders, but they're the ones that came down, picked up people, Ezekiel for example, and flew off with him. So when you start reading the ancient tablets about messengers doing this, that and the other, and that's how the messengers could actually have relationships, or angels have relationships with humans. So if you read the Bible where it's saying an angel came in through the door, sat down, had breakfast with this human family, and da-da-da-da-da. When you listen to religious people, they say, oh, and I've asked religious people, I say, how come they can do that? And you know what they say? Oh, they can manifest themselves into human form. They didn't make up crap. Just enough. You don't know they can manifest because you're just making up crap to fit the what actually is said. Whereas we've got the original tablets where it says that they would, well, basically they were Anunnaki and they would come down, or depending where they're from. So for example, an archangel would come down in his craft and take someone up into heaven, space, to go and see the highest. And guess who the highest is? No, it's not God. The highest would have been Enlil, because Enlil had a rank of 50. What do you mean a rank of 50? Well, they had ranks. Enki, which really upsets me, only had a rank of 30, and Ninurta had 40. So the highest is actually Enlil. So it's not. So angels are not this ethereal being. It's just people don't bother doing the research. Kim has wrote no effing sound. Hopefully you can hear me. Otherwise I've wasted a long time. Hassan wrote, I thought we are the alien here on Earth. No, we're hybrids from part alien from the Anunnaki. Thomas wrote, the Anunnaki use different frequency devices. It's possible. I don't know what frequencies they would have used if they used them, but yeah, I can't say no to that. Sherry's wrote, we can hear you. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. Reshman has wrote, human beings are aliens to the planet. This planet was meant for animals. We are the aliens. Well, I did some research into what scientists would have believed would have happened with the hominids were we not here. In other words, would one species of hominid got as close as we were now? Now, interestingly, they said no, they wouldn't be as smart as us. However, there is a tablet, or a couple of tablets actually, where the Anunnaki, and I say Anunnaki, Enlil, predominantly, talks about a race here on Earth that was monkey-like. This is me pretty much quoting it. Monkey-like with canine instincts and as smart as humans. Now, mainstream scientists actually even talk about the same race. Forgive me, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Granada, something like that. Grenada. And so mainstream actually have historical records of these races fighting humans. But they put down, the mainstreams put these down as another faction of humans fighting humans, when really, if you go by the original tablet, it was a monkey-like race that was fighting humans. And we've got the tablets that say Enlil sent them to fight us. So when you break it down properly, and I did do a Patreon video on this, and I've called it the Real Planet of the Apes, because literally, when you look at the video that I done, you see that there was a race here that mainstream don't talk about because they don't have the knowledge of how smart they were, that weren't humans. So they put them down when they got the stories of these Grenada, I can't remember how it's pronounced, race. They put it down. Sorry, they put it down as a human race fighting another human race. As simple as that. They move on, but it's not. So yeah, fascinating. That's why my Patreon page has got a hell of a lot of good stuff on there, such as a 4-hour documentary. I know I'm advertising, but 4-hour documentary that I made myself with my own knowledge and research on everything you need to know about spirits. I've done one on everything you need to know about mermaids, and yes, mermaids were real. Whether they're still around or not, I can't answer that, but they certainly were real. When you watch my video, you'll say, yeah, that makes sense, because I don't just pick stories, I go back to exactly where they would have come from, where the first... I break it down, 100%. Sorry, Nadir wrote, do we come from different constellations? No, the Anunnaki were... Their planet was outside our solar system at some point, however long back, came into our solar system. We know that because we've got a tablet, or tablets, or book. So the Umralish is a collection of tablets. They call it a book, but yeah, that's in the British Museum, which literally talks about. Now the thing is, when you realise what they're actually talking about, a planet smashing into, or the moon smashing into another planet, etc. Now I know if you read it, it will talk about Marduk doing it, but there is another version out there. It's called the Creation Story. But either way, no, we're not from another constellation. Orion Nebula's right. Enki represents the snake on the back of an ambulance. I've heard that. I don't agree with it myself. I have heard that. I don't agree with it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just me. Virginia's wrote, are they all dead now? So the Epic of Gilgamesh talks when Gilgamesh is talking to, I never can remember his name, another Anunnaki who was older than Thingy. They started talking about the flood. So obviously, thank you, Carla, for the rose. Yeah, so Gilgamesh was talking to another Anunnaki who was a lot older, because Gilgamesh was after the elixir, which was a plant that gave longer life, which is where we get the stories of the Fountain of Youth from. Anyway, he was talking to this elder Anunnaki, and they were talking about the flood. So obviously Enki's story is well after the flood, which we know. But they talk about the gods, or the Elohim of old, the kings of old, I think it was actually. I can't, forgive me, it's one of those. It wasn't lords. But yeah, they was talking about them of old, which normally means they're not around anymore. And obviously, if you go by the Sitchin's work with the Lost Book of Enki, when King Anu came down, he saw that the three main characters, Enlil, Enki, and Ninhasa, as she was then known. In fact, actually, I think she ended up with a different name towards the end again. But she was described as wrinkly and old and hunched over, and he wasn't. King Anu wasn't. In other words, here on Earth, their time sped up, or their aging process sped up. Whether it's because of the sun, the gravitational, it could be numerous reasons, I guess. But either way, they were old just after the flood. So the chances of them surviving, they survived up until Greece, when you had thingy, and then Rome came after that. But my personal feeling is just Rome people were reiterating stories, and to be honest, if you actually read the stories properly in the Greek mythology, you'll realise they're actually talking about stories that happened way before. So it's not, the stories are not there and then, they are talking about things that happened way before. So yeah, the main Anunnaki, the offsprings of the Anunnaki stayed around, but they only, from everything that I've read, the maximum lifespan of an Anunnaki and a human was about 1,000 years. So even then, we would now have offspring off of offspring, possibly even off another offspring. So yes, to answer your question, they would be dead now. And Gilgamesh died as well. Val has wrote Coast to Coast AM. I've not been on Coast to Coast AM. Love the program, but I've not been on that. I've been on other ones. Fade to Black, the Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett and stuff, waffling on for hours. People chatting to each other. I won't read them out. Orion's wrote Enki knew the flood was coming. He did indeed. I've actually read the tablets where he talks about. I've read them out here on TikTok, where he talks about the assembly. When he says assembly, it means a council of other Anunnaki, all agreeing to allow the flood to happen, or the deluge to happen. And he was the only one that opposed it, which is why he went and told Zazudra, yes, Noah, that the flood or deluge was going to be coming, which was an ice shelf breaking off. Now, actually, there is somewhere that I read years ago that said about the pins. There was pins that was holding the ice shelf in. So the Anunnaki had put some sort of pins to hold it from thingy. And when Nibiru was coming back round, and obviously the giants and the humans that they didn't want around anymore, they removed the pins so that when Nibiru came around, the gravitational force would break the ice off the shelf and slide into the water and cause a tsunami, which is why everything got flooded over. Because if you just have a normal flood, water subsides and you still end up with the same buildings, but obviously we have evidence that they're covered over in mud, sand, silt, etc., and even with fish bones and fossils, etc. So we know there was definitely a flood of some type, and obviously rainwater wouldn't cover it over in the same way that a tsunami did. And of course that then leads you to the ice shelf that broke off of Antarctica. Then it leads on to where Admiral Byrd said that there's land, not more land, and this is why I get frustrated, land in Antarctica, which makes sense because obviously if there's a huge chunk the size of Texas that slid into the ocean 10,000 years ago. Digress. Run from the Livings wrote, it's the old publish or perish, laugh out loud. Forgotten what I was talking about at that point, sorry. Roses wrote, all beings from different dimensions, spaces and time, etc. are experiencing human form. I wouldn't say that precisely. I would say the light energy beings, which are the orbs, do, but I wouldn't say other species do. Noah's wrote, why would they come here? Imagine flying through all that junk. Because long story, but Alalula came here first to get away because he thought they was going to get killed because he tried to depose King Anu, but King Anu wasn't the king at that point until he beat Alalula in a wrestling match. Then Alalula left there, came to Earth, and found gold here on Earth, and then radioed back through. And when I say radioed, I have no idea how that technology worked, but he did. He contacted his home planet, and then they sent 50 Anunnaki, including Enki, to get the gold. So that's why they came in. Michelle's wrote, Source created everything. We are all part of that source. Aliens included in this to experience. Well, that's what the little greys say, source or creation. So I can't argue with you on that one. Orion's Enki was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Again, doesn't make sense. Absolutely doesn't make sense. Enki's the one that stopped Enlil trying to wipe us out 10 times with the plagues of Egypt. It was Enlil. I've read the tablets. In fact, I've done a whole Patreon video on that, where I break down the 10... See, unfortunately, people don't think, really. So basically, because the people in Egypt wrote about the 10 plagues of Egypt, everyone thinks it happened in Egypt. The actual events happened over in Israel. But where he blocked off the waters, etc., the insects then had to travel to the nearest water source. And guess where the nearest water source was? The Nile. Where's that? Egypt. So when you have sound big-headed here, but when you put it together properly, like I have, and do a video on it, it makes so much more sense. So Enki being the snake in the Garden of Eden doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because he was Adam's father, Adipa's father. So it doesn't make sense to me. Metal Maid has wrote, T. Lobsang Rampa, you need to read. I've not heard of that. Is it by just another research? Oh, I swear this TikTok looks... I've got a sock and about 10 freaking stickers over the camera, so I don't know why it's suddenly always, when I look away and then look back... Sorry, it goes all the way to the bottom. Sorry. Right, all right, I'm at the top now. Watch movies much? Okay, sorry. This is live, everybody. I'm reading every single question. It's just you may not see the questions because I'm so far back. Williams wrote, did they create monsters? They created hybrids, absolutely, yeah. We've got cylinder seals, we've got the writings of them, we've got the stories of them. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're doing it now. We're behind closed doors just because we don't see it on the news. They've hybridized many creatures. You can guarantee that they've been doing that. Jacqueline has wrote, so we are image of. Yes, we are the image. That's why it says it in the Old Testament, in the image of them, because that's what they look like. You can have a look at carvings of them. They're all over the place. Just type in Sumerian gods. And the reason why you type in Sumerian instead of Anunnaki is because mainstream don't want us to know that Anunnaki actually exists. But you can type in Sumerian gods, which are the same people, and you'll see the same names, Enki and Enlil, etc. But of course, mainstream try to avoid saying Anunnaki, because as soon as you say Anunnaki, then it translates into those that came from space, not heaven. Those that came from space to Earth, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. Michael has wrote, was there a war between the ones in the South America and the ones in Egypt? Oh, good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. Not that I've read. There was, when you say the war ones in South Africa, so I'm guessing you're referring to the Anunnaki, because humans, we did, the African people, I say African people, the people there, did migrate over 300,000 years. A war, not necessarily. The only wars I would be able to tell you about would be the ones for example, Ayana went round and had fights with, and of course there was other Anunnaki that fought other Anunnaki. I mean, like, or offspring, should I say, of Anunnaki. So Marduk's sons, or Marduk's second descendants down, I think it was Osiris and Set in Egyptian times. They obviously had wars and stuff. So there was a lot of wars going on between different factions, but not necessarily South Africa and Egypt that I'm aware of. And of course, Osiris and Set and Isis weren't the actual original names. That's the names we've translated from the Egyptians, but we have actually got the same stories of them in Sumerian, so we know that they were Sumerian originally, and the stories were passed down, which is why we get the names we get. Son of Zeus is right. Enki should have studied biology in the galaxy, I guess. He yeah, I mean, Nimna, his half sister, was the chief medical officer. She had a base set up in Sapur, I think it was, which again is Middle East, Mesopotamia. So yeah, he weren't daft in that. Even though when you read the tablets, they come across, dare I say it, simple. You know, they repeat things. I'm bad at that, but they repeat things, and it comes across so simple. You could have worded it a lot quicker and succinctly if you're going to sit there and have someone with a stylus writing out on a very small clay tablet. Some of these clay tablets are only like 6 inches by 4 inches, so you'd want to be as quick as possible, wouldn't you? But they waffle on. Vivicius has wrote, trying to fill in the blanks instead of it coming naturally. I'm not sure what I was talking about there. Sorry. Jacqueline's wrote, sorry, what I meant to say was, are we created in their image? Yes, we are. I mean, they didn't sit there and think, I'm going to make this person look identical to us. It was because they used their essence and MEs, which I'm guessing is DNA, with the hominid, which was more than likely, in my opinion, Neanderthal. I mean, you've got to read the tablets and watch my videos, but I've read out, again, this particular translation you can find in the Oxford University website, where they try 6 or 7 times to create the first human. It's amazing. And do you know what happens? Each time they failed, like they had the lungs weren't working, or the missing a leg or whatever, just basically deformed, which is understandable when you're messing around with genetics. Do you know what he did? Because I remember reading Zachariah Sitchin's book, Lost Book of Enki, and he talked about that, but he didn't say what happened to those ones that were disabled. And in my head, I'm thinking, please don't let them put them out to pasture or kill them or whatever. But when you actually read the tablets, which I have, Enki gives them all jobs in the palaces. How cool is that? So, when people say Enki's a snake, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think he may have, in his defence, by having relationships with his children, is that the right thing? Maybe in their species, because obviously they do interbreed. We know that because it says it a lot. He even had a kid with his half sister, and obviously when it goes to the Egyptian times and the Greek times, they're all interbreeding. Now, if you think that the story of Alalula, when he bit off King Anu's private part and swallowed it in the wrestling match, he was diagnosed that he was going to die because it's going to poison him. So in other words, just throwing out a little bit of logic, their makeup is slightly different to us. So could they not have genetic deformities by breeding and inbreeding like we would? So I'm just throwing that out there. Live Danny has wrote, can't you have both planets and dimensions? You can, absolutely, yeah. But when people say, I have had people say literally all aliens come from another dimension, and of course we have planets here. But yeah, I mean they could, but until we kind of have proof that there is a second dimension, it's hard for me to believe that aliens come from there. Even though I do believe it, I try and go by some sort of evidence on that if at all possible. Jake has wrote, bro, the stories are literally from YouTube. I used to listen to them decades ago. Jake, bro, back at you, mate. You know why they're on YouTube? Because I'm not saying I created these stories. They're on YouTube, bro, because people have done their homework and come to the same conclusions, Jake. That's why. Steffi's wrote, gosh, you've got a tough crowd tonight. Blimey, Skeptic Forum tonight. Yeah, it's yeah. I can't, you know, Steffi, between me, you and the lamppost, I kind of enjoy it because I like to ask and put them on the spot and then sort of ask them to type something there and then so that everyone, because obviously I'm behind on the messages, but you guys would read their reply, and you know they can't reply because no one's ever replied to anything that I've asked them without being sarcastic, without giving me the correct answer. So in other words, they can't. So I do enjoy it. Really, that's partly why I do this. I kind of hope for people to say you're wrong, and then I'll say, okay, point me out where I'm wrong. Everybody's going to point me out where I'm wrong, and they don't. They do a runner. So I enjoy that because it kind of makes me egotistical and big-headed. Sorry, guilty. Anakin has wrote, our higher self is our zodiac. I can't say yes or no to that. I guess you might be right. Seventh note has wrote, Earth round or flatmate. Watch my pinned video where I say it's round and ask one simple question. And I've had thousands of views from flat earthers. And you read their comments, it's great. So they say, this proves nothing. I said, no problem at all. Just answer the question. And the question really is, how can every single camera, even if it's not NASA's, show equal distance around, even if it's near Australia or in Australia, which should be near the edge of your flat Earth, but it doesn't. It shows equal distance, and the only reason why you get equal distance is because you're on something round, and you're always in the middle on something round. So I asked them, and do you know what they come back? They either say some swear words or something, and then disappear. But no one has come back and gave me a satisfactory answer why every single camera that ever goes up, even people that's trying to debunk the flat Earth, have equal distance around, no matter where they send the camera up. So yeah, sorry. Nacho Friendly Buddies wrote, and why our medicines are used from PLA space RS Tehulus, and why our medicines are used from Plas Tehulus. I'm guessing that's plants. Yeah, they do. Well, I mean, yeah. They can also kill us as well, certain things. Davros wrote, I've been researching this for 25 years. One big proof is the cargo cult in the New Guinea research. I'm not aware of that. Sounds interesting. I'd love to know more on that. 1518 wrote gene splicing. Yeah, we're doing it now with CRISPR. Caesar has wrote, I still believe that God created man, not the alien or anyone else. But you're going by the Bible, Caesar. Hopefully Caesar's still around. You're going by the Bible. Now, if I took that Bible away, disappeared, vanished, what would you... If that was never around, if those people didn't bother to write that, basic translations of the older tablets, but let's pretend it's an original book, even though you want to go by the man-made version that changed the original version, the Old Testament. You want to go Genesis, I think it's Genesis 26. Thank you, Daryl. Genesis 26 says, let us create man in their image. And Genesis 27, the version later, said God created man in his image. Someone's been messing around with it, Caesar, but you want to believe it? It's up to you. You're cool. I can't do that. I'm not that gullible, and I don't mean to sound rude, but literally you've got two versions of the Bible, one that says plural and one says English, and you want to believe the English version, the single version, because why? I don't get it. Carlyle's wrote multiple dimensions have been proven by declassified CIA documents. Yeah. See, the problem with that is if that was the case, then every researcher that's looking into multiple dimensions would be having their own websites, asking for funding, because basically that would have opened the floodgate to say that we can now, theoretically open something to get to a second dimension, because in order to prove there's a second dimension, you would need something open and ideally go through it and then come back, so at least you can say that there was definitely something there instead of just a window or a mirror or a screen. So you would need physically something to go through it and come back multiple times if you've got multiple different dimensions. So if that's out in the public domain, you would have every single researcher that wants to time travel, that wants to bring back the dead, that wants to be the very first person to be known as the first person to transfer. I can't see. You would hear. I would have thought you would hear about everyone clamouring on that. Caesar's right. I still believe that God created man, and not only read that one. Sometimes people do repeat. This is live, everybody. 7 PhDs has wrote. Skeptic, haha, you mean still no proof or actual fact? No problem at all, Stephen. Thank you, whoever just gave me that thing. I just missed it. Stephen, please be around. Everybody. This is why I love doing this. One of us, Stephen, not going to mention any names, even though, 7 PhDs. Even though apparently you have 7 PhDs, one of us is going to be smarter than the other one. Yes, I didn't have any PhDs at school, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. I can guarantee you my intellect will be smarter than yours. I can guarantee that. Mensa will probably tell you the same thing about my Mensa scores. But anyway, so 7 PhDs. I was in special needs, but somehow this is why I identify as a god. I know it sounds bad, but I do, because my intellect is very impressive. My daughter's just walked in now looking at me thinking, Dad. Sorry, so anyway, thank you, Winnie. Winnie's hopefully agreeing that Anyway, 7 PhDs, I hope you're still here. Write down one thing, 7 PhDs, where I've said something that is wrong. Just one. Everybody, he's going to do it right now. It's going to be a bloke. Sean McGrouty has given me some hearts. Thank you very much. So everybody, 7's just not going to do it, is he? Let's be honest. He's done a runner. Esther Herbert has wrote, yes, they did. They seeded us here. Spot on. Orion Nebula's wrote, Enki was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Again, doesn't make sense to me. That just does not make sense to me at all. And obviously, it wasn't an actual Garden of Eden. It was a location called Eden. But anyway, Roxanne wrote, we already have 3 dimensions which we live in. Scientists achieved time crystal and won Nobel Prize. Not aware of that. If that's true, I'm surprised I've not heard about it. If it's that big a deal. Interesting. Rose has wrote, God created all. You mean Elohim? Plural. Old Testament. Which one do you want to choose, Rose? Plural or the man-made version where they edited it? What do you want to go? Take your pick. Top, middle, or bottom? Strike the screen. Scrolling down. Rose has wrote, God is all. Elohim, you mean? The plural. Ah, yeah, they are. They're pretty cool. Nacho Friend Buddies wrote, all mammals have matching cells. oh god, I'm terrible at pronunciations. That's why I didn't get the PhDs. I didn't even do them. Cannabinoid 80 to be exact. I'm gonna move on from that before I hurt myself. Michael Powles, yes, I was in special needs at school. Michael Powles has wrote, there are only two dimensions, space and counter space. Jinx has wrote, who created the Anunnaki? It was chemicals. They did actually talk about evolution on their planet. So, and we know for a fact that we can now create life from chemicals, because a month or so ago I did a video showing that you can actually, no, I did it on my Patreon page, but you can just go research it. Just type in, if you're bothered, can we create life using chemicals, and you'll find the answer. So doesn't necessarily mean it's a god if chemicals bash into each other and create life. Davros wrote, notice they have never found the missing link. Correct, yeah, I know, they've given up talking about it now, haven't they? Roxanne's wrote, time crystal exists in the fourth dimension time. I mean, I can't argue, but I can't. You'd think if we knew something about a different dimension, it would be everywhere, wouldn't it? Big Boss has wrote, the real fact on this is that we simply have zero evidence to know who made us. We will never will. Well, actually, Big Boss, we've got fused chromosomes that you can do in a lab. How did we get that? Did the almighty being sit there in his little lab? Or did we get those two fused chromosomes, 23 and 24, because genetically modified by a race that suddenly appeared here, suddenly gave us the first ever language, suddenly created buildings that we still can't create today? You get it. You got the idea. Meta Maid is right. Okay, who created animals? Again, chemicals. It's quite obvious in my opinion. That's what I always thought it was until I double checked it and saw that recently they have now created life using chemicals, which there was none before. So yeah, 1580 Davis wrote, everybody type is different. Everybody blood type is a different species. I'll let someone with, like Philomena, answer that one. Jimmy's wrote, Trinity Rose. I totally agree. That I'm guessing you agree that the man-made book that was edited to edit out Enoch, etc. You totally agree with that. Well, if you've got that book, I can write a little quick book for you, and you can believe that one as well if you want. And you can't say no. Don't. I'm not being facetious, but if you believe a version that man's changed instead of the original version, then you can't argue with me. If I say I've got a book that you should read, you can't argue. You can't say, well, you wrote it as human because the Genesis 27 has changed, which is the one you go by. Linus wrote, do you think John D. Rockefeller is an alien? No, because if you look at his story, he had, just scrolled all the way to the bottom. He wasn't wealthy until he got into petroleum, and it was really luck that he did. He was quite forceful. If you look in the story, so his family wasn't rich or anything at all prior to him getting into the petrol game. So I can't see him being an alien whatsoever. It's just so it's the same as Bill Gates. You hit on the right thing. Yes, his parents were quite wealthy, but you hit on the right thing, and then power comes your way. If you're a nasty person and can destroy competition, etc., as both of those type of people did. Sorry, nearly there. Just had to scroll all the way down again. I don't know if I've missed anything. Sorry. No, still trying to scroll. Trinity, I totally agree. Riz has wrote, Muslims believe in a second dimension where the jinn live amongst us. We can't see them. I agree. I believe there's a second. There's a different dimension or portal or valve to something. I agree, but obviously I kind of need evidence for that, and not just papers that say it. Jacqueline has wrote, are you able to tell us what and if we are alien descent? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. The closest I would be able to tell you would be if you have Rh negative blood. That's their blood group. It started at the same point that they came along, in the same location they came along, and the same time that they came. So yeah, that's as close as you'll get to being. But obviously, you could have had, different parents. That one was a descendant of the Anunnaki, and another one was normal, and then goes back. But yeah, you get the idea. Nachos wrote, the missing link, we were created to evolve. We were technically created to carry baskets, as it actually physically says in the oldest known language. Who writes that if it's not real? Chris has wrote, where's your research from? The film Prometheus. Chris is a non-believer. I do actually agree that Prometheus was talking, about the Anunnaki, but I'm not even going to bother with Chris. Someone with hands up was right. I did too, and that's shit's crazy wild. I don't know what I was talking about at that point. Seventh note wrote, I think means you don't know. So when I say, what you're saying is, when I say I think, you're saying that I don't know. No, I mean, there's a difference. Did anyone go to school these days? There is a difference between me thinking something and saying I don't know. I have actually said I don't know. Ronnie's wrote, we all come from Lucy. Guess where Lucy came from? Same place where the Anunnaki were mining for gold, where they said they genetically created the first humans. Just because we found Lucy's bones doesn't mean that there's not other bones there to be found. Bear in mind, it was flooded over 10,000 years ago, enough to flood over the gold mines that some of them have been found since. So, sorry, I digress. So seventh note, when you wrote I think means you don't know. No, I will say I don't know. If I believe something, then I'll say I think. So next time you say, oh, I think I left the milk in the fridge. So you're pretty sure you did. But really, what you're now saying is, because you say I think, it means you have no idea. You're a numpty. That's what you just said. So next time you say I think something, just remember what you said. Caesar's right. I believe God is the source and the creator. Again, man-made version of the book, because you're going single there. So I've got a book. I'll knock up a book for you guys, and you can all follow it and religiously believe in me and hand me money. That would be cool, actually. Jacqueline's right. I thought Anjin was a demon. Okay, so there's no such thing as a demon per se. There's no entity that you can describe as a demon. Same as monster. Don't hate me. It's just the way it is. But demon is something that you describe as something evil. So Bill Gates, for example. Jinn could be evil, if you want to take it that way. They do things, like possess us, etc. But in their defense, look at a little parasite. Is that evil? Just because it's living off your body? Something popped up there. I didn't have chance to read it. Sorry, I wasn't looking. Amy Vengus has wrote, the Pope in Catholic Church has it all written, don't, and no public can get access. They do, yeah. The Vatican has. I mean, I did a video number 1000, where I basically said that the Anunnaki offspring, in my opinion. Ian's wrote, please research about Teotihuacan ruins, Bolivia. Oh, I know all about that. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you. I see a little kiss at the end of it. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, no, I do look into absolutely everything. This isn't my first rodeo. In fact, I've even done a couple of videos now on Göbekli Tepe, and believe it or not, no one said I'm wrong, which is fantastic. Out of 1,050 videos, no one said I'm wrong. I've got people saying I'm wrong, but then I say, where am I wrong? And they just, because they don't actually know that I'm wrong, they just make it up. Thank you, blue something. But yeah, I did a video on a couple of videos on Göbekli Tepe where I said this is what I believe it was, and then the next one I showed the evidence that the Anunnaki would have used it for that. Thank you, Sean. That the Anunnaki would have used Göbekli Tepe for that reason. Bearing in mind, Göbekli Tepe is just at the end of thingy, and they actually had. And then I did another video further on. So yeah, sorry, I digress. But yeah, I do look into the ancient locations as well as. Thank you, Blue. Blue Giup Exotic. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. But I like your avatars, little alien. It's cool. Virginia's wrote, are the Anunnaki all dead now? If they didn't go back, they were offered to go back just after the flood. Some of them went back, some stayed with the wives, human wives, and some obviously ended up dying. Benny's wrote, God nonsense. I'm guessing you're saying that an almighty being is nonsense. Caesar's right, I believe God is the source and the creator. It's funny, I do get religious people really hammering it home. This is about the third time I've read that. We hear you, I have read it out. But unfortunately, thank you for the Easter eggs. Oh, how lovely. I didn't catch your name, forgive me. Orion's right, Enki warned us about the flood. Technically he wasn't allowed to warn us, and he only warned Zazudra, which was, as you know, also known as Atrahasis and Noah in different. And this is the thing that gets me. There was that guy that I did a video about. Jess has sent me an alien sign. Thank you, Jess. There's a religious guy, and he cuts into people's videos and says, "Go on then, let's hear it." And so basically he tries to knock people down. And I'd done a video knocking him down. And he actually replied to it. And then I pointed out his errors. And he hasn't come back. So one of us, I'm not going to mention any names, he knows the Bible inside and out. But what he doesn't know is what the Bible copied inside and out. And he made it up. No, he didn't make it up. He kind of got it wrong. So I did point him out. And I don't like doing videos where I knock people down. But his videos, all he does is knock people down. That's what he does. So I think some people probably like the thought that I knocked him down a little bit. But yeah, he did a video where he was saying that Noah isn't the same person as Zazudra, Atrahasis, and there's another name I can't remember off the top of my head. So I pointed out to him that Jesus isn't the actual original name either. And thank you, Manny. And I also pointed out that the different times, thank you really don't have to, the different times that the names were mentioned were over 10,000 years. Even Genghis Khan isn't the original Genghis Khan name. So I pointed that out to him, and of course he disappeared. So yeah, that's why I like doing these things. Roses wrote, this reality dimension planet, whatever you want to call it, is a living being. Interesting. It could be. I mean, if you go by the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, this is the oldest known mention of how the universe is created. So you've got to give it some credence. Bearing in mind the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, we probably didn't even know what a universe was back then when these were translated. We don't actually have the originals anymore, but we do have translations of them. But to even talk about a universe, who does that? Even in the Latin translations of it, let's just pretend that there was no original Emerald Tablets of Thoth, even though I've matched it with the location of Atlantis, etc., etc. But you know, who does that back then and talks about the creation of a universe when we have no idea? We probably thought we was the center of the universe at that point. So anyway, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talks about the creation being a thought, just a thought. Now, you can go down the lines of manifestations, which I won't bore you with, but which is basically prayers, and that's why people. It's not really a prayer; it's more of a group manifestation. But yeah, anyway, that's another story for another day. Donovan's wrote, "We are all gods in our own right." Thank you. That's why I have a cup that says my real name, and then it says God's cup, and then it says AKA, and then my real name. So thank you for allowing me that. Givo Steen has wrote, "You searched wrong." I'm guessing you mean I researched wrong. No problem at all. Tell me where I've gone wrong. Just name one thing where I've gone wrong. Just tell me one thing. This is what happens on my videos. That's why people go back to video number 1 and watch them all the way through, because they realise that maybe I'm not that far wrong, because no one's can come back. Thank you, Manny. I know I'm sounding really big-headed tonight, aren't I? But I'm happy for people to tell me where I'm wrong, but they don't. That's why I kind of have got into this big-headed ego thing, because thank you. Really don't have to keep doing that. Thank you. Orion Nebula's wrote, there were 50 gods. Well, technically there was 12 gods. So you had 50 Anunnaki come down on the first shipment. So Alalula was already here. He stayed here for 3,600 years, which was only 1 year on their planet, while they prepared this particular craft that they needed to come down and be able to siphon out gold. And I say siphon out because the first place that they did it was actually in Eridu, just off the waters off of Eridu. But anyway, so the actual 12 gods, there was 12 Sumerian gods. There wasn't 50 gods. But if you, technically you're right. Forgive me. If you're going by the name Elohim instead of the Lords, then yes, there was 50 Elohim. Technically 51 to start with. There ended up being, if anyone's interested, there ended up being 600 Elohim here on, or Anunnaki, because that's the name they was given as those that came here. 600 here on Earth, 300 in Abzu, South Africa, and 300 in Mesopotamia. And Manny, you don't have to. Thank you. And then 300 Ijiji, which were the fallen angels, which were the Anunnaki on Mars that was on their away station. Jacqueline's wrote, love Greek mythology. I have done, I don't know if you've watched them, but I've gone through a lot of the Greek mythology and pointed out where it actually is exactly the same as the Sumerian mythology, which isn't really mythology, it's truth. So yeah, if you're interested in finding all that out, feel free to watch my videos. Probably best if you, instead of going all the way bottom on TikTok, because there's 1,050, just go to my website, and from there you can go to YouTube or watch them on my website, and they're in sets of 50 and sets of 5. So I know people as stuck them on and just watched 50 in a row. A lot of people seem to binge watch them, because before you know it, they're only a minute long, but before you know it, time's flown. But they seem to love them. Williams wrote, I've been trying to find out what aliens were for years. Not sure how to answer that. Technically, anything that's not of this planet. Davros wrote, if you just replace the word God with alien, the story makes much more sense. Spot on, yeah. I mean, if you do, literally, yeah. I mean, that's one of the first things I learned a long time ago. And then change heaven for space, and it just makes so much more sense. Because obviously, as I said, both the Bible and, for example, the Book of Enoch, Book of Enoch talks about above the firmament, which is the layer between Earth and space. Above the firmament, you can see, this is, I'm literally quoting, you can see stars in heaven, which means we can all see heaven, but of course we can't see heaven. It's space. Jimmy's wrote to Trinity Rose, absolutely. Again, another religious person not wanting to understand that man changed the Bible. Sorry, I don't mean to knock you, but honestly, I couldn't do that. I don't know. I'm not that type of person to sit there and say, okay, there's two versions, one with plural and one with single. Let's go with the single one, the newer version. That obviously humans changed. It wasn't God. You do realise that the word of God shouldn't be changed. You know where that comes from? The Book of Enoch. You don't know that. Why not? Because you haven't done any homework. Oh, no, don't. You're going to make me not want to believe in God. Well, I'm sorry. I'm just telling you how it is. Don't hate me. But yeah, the word in the book of Enoch, it actually says that, I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember exact words, but basically it said these words shouldn't be changed by man or human. And then this is the only bit of sarcasm I've ever read. It may not be sarcasm, but I've took it as sarcasm. That it said, but they will, meaning humans will change it. Literally, it says they shouldn't change it, but they will, because they know what we're like. We are. And then you've got people that actually blindly follow the changed version. Really? I can't do that. I go around in circles with that. Sorry. Jacqueline's right. I've always felt I had Lemurian within me somewhere. The problem with Lemurian, bless you, Jacqueline, is it was made up in 1857 by a guy that then said that there was a continent called Lemuria and it had millions of people that all died when it sunk. That's the extent of Lemurian. So first of all, how the hell did he know there was millions of people when there's no other evidence whatsoever, ever? And please don't quote Dolores Cannon, because she's amazing at hypno-regression, etc. But she jumped on the bandwagon, and I've pointed her out in a few videos where whenever she talks about aliens, I can run rings around her. Not because I want to, but because she literally said that humans were created at the same time as aliens when the Big Bang happened. If you believe that, then fine. I don't know where to... But she said that, and I did a video showing her saying that. So she says Lemurians because she just copied someone else. So, yeah, I mean, just a bit of logic says 1857, suddenly first word of Lemurian appeared, and that person, no other people at that point, just that person, said that there was millions of people on the continent when it sank. That was it, and so there was no alien race flying around at that point. This is what the person was saying. So when you do your homework and you realise that there was continents that wasn't underwater at that point. Yeah, I mean, the waters has come up from inner Earth, and we know that now. You watch my recent videos, and I've been saying it for years, but now more and more proofs showing there's a name for it as well, where the water's coming up from below. So yeah, so no with the Lemurians in my opinion, but Merlin's wrote, you've researched what in a Doctor Who book, or was it Noddy, sorry. So we've got someone that doesn't believe me, because I researched. I have actually been to certain places to look into these things. Greece, obviously. Greece is a great one. Malta and stuff, but sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom typically. A lot of questions still. Thank you everybody, by the way, for staying here listening. I hope it's, if it isn't, obviously do your own homework, whatever I'm saying, do your own homework, and I can point you to where the homework is if you want. Watch my videos or just ask me, I can point you to it. But I don't think anyone, even the Almighty God, if there was one, wouldn't want you to blindly follow a book that humans edited, would he? I don't know. I think that would be stupid for him to have allowed. There's lots of questions. I'm just seeing some as I'm scrolling all the way back to the very, very top because it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Forgive me, everybody. If you are interested in listening to more of these type of things, I have got them loads on my YouTube channel, these live chats, as well as my website, outrohistory.co.uk. Just trying to find where I was. Sorry, it's not me, it's TikTok. Not designed for doing this. Just scrolling down. We're all gods in our own rights. There we go. 50 gods. Someone's wrote editing black people's stories. Anu is black. Someone's just pinned up. No problem at all. Okay. 13 Black has wrote Anunnaki and Enki is black. Obviously, they've watched my recent video where I show that they weren't. But okay, no problem at all. 13 black, or I'm guessing it's black, but using 13. No problem at all. If you could write, everybody, listen, this is amazing. So I've done videos showing why I believe, with evidence, why I believe the Anunnaki were pale skinned. So I'm hoping, I'm probably going to lose some people here that maybe want to believe the Anunnaki are dark skinned, but this person now, hopefully, that's listening to me, is going to be typing out, everybody, right now, typing out why. And don't say, please don't say, look at a YouTuber, please don't say, look at their nose, and please don't say, look at their beard, because I proved in my last video that the beard is, they use lapis lazuli. 13 Black's pinned it, and he's saying that Gigi are black, blah, blah, blah. No problem at all. Stop pinning. Just, they're not going to. Just give me the evidence. The evidence. Don't say, look at the skin, you know, because obviously we can't look at the skin, but don't say, look at them, they look like black people. Please don't do that, because we're talking about an alien race that genetically modified hominids to create the first, dare I say it, dark-skinned people. Hominids. And the thing is, I think, let's be honest, let's cut to the chase. This particular person wants the Anunnaki to be black and the humans to be black. And then the question then is, where did white people come from? Yeah. So this person's now hopefully wrote the answer, which we know he hasn't, of the evidence. 13 Blacks wrote all the tablets, all the tables are in Africa. No, don't. No, I need the evidence. I've done my videos showing you the evidence. Clearly, you've watched my videos to have brought up the fact that the Anunnaki are black, in your opinion. So no, I don't do that. Point to the evidence, because I could just reply back saying no. The tablets. If you're saying the tablets in Africa, I could point back and say, well, the tablets in Mesopotamia say white. I could just do that. I don't do that because I point to evidence, but I could. If you're going to do that, I could do that back. So, unfortunately, this person's not going to be able to reply with evidence, because clearly they would have replied with evidence already, instead of just saying all the tables, which obviously you meant tablets, in Africa. No, they're not. In fact, you don't actually find many tablets in Africa at all. And now this person's saying Mesopotamians in Africa. So you have no idea. You've got no clue. So I'm just going to pass on you, because clearly you have no idea that Mesopotamia... No one went back from Mesopotamia. Show me the evidence of someone from Mesopotamia. Do you even know where Mesopotamia is? Show me the evidence where someone went back from Mesopotamia to the Abzu, or Africa even. I'm happy to have Africa instead of South Africa. Show me the evidence. Point to me right now. This person's not going to be able to. One of us, I'm sorry, 13 Black. I'm sorry. One of us is probably going to be right. However, I know you want them to be black, but the first humans were dark-skinned. If not for you guys with the dark skin, because obviously I'm guessing you're black, seeing as your name's 13 Black. The first humans, Homo sapiens, on this planet were dark-skinned. You've done it. You've got what you want. But the problem is the Anunnaki were pale-skinned, blue eyes, blonde beard. That's why we've got Michelangelo's picture of God. Why do you think he has bloody blonde hair and... but we've also got the evidence that they genetically... bred with the humans, the dark-skinned humans, 100,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, which then was the first place that light-skinned people came from. So you've got what you want. Humans, first Homo sapiens were here, were dark-skinned. Congratulations, well done. That's what you were after. But you can't throw the Anunnaki as dark, because where did the white people come from? So anyway, sorry, forgive me, everybody, but I get a lot of POCs wanting the Anunnaki to be dark-skinned, and I ask for evidence. I do. I'm a nice guy. You know, if you've got evidence, I will happily look at it. But don't just say all the tablets in Africa, and when there is no tablets in Africa, because it just basically means you haven't done any research. But Anyway, Merlin's wrote. Yeah, that was the person. Thank you, Manny. I'm not racist. I just read it as it is. If the Anunnaki were dark, then great, no problem at all. I have no problems with that. But everything that I've read. Anyway, speaking of read, Merlin wrote, you researched what in Doctor Who book or was it in Noddy? Oh, Merlin, you numpty. Scotland's wrote, I laugh at this theory. You might. I'm not going to knock you for spelling because I'm crap at spelling. Okay, no problem at all if you feel that. Orion's wrote 50 states for 50 gods. No, because as I say, they ended up with 900. N has wrote, hi, please research about Teotihuacan ruins in Bolivia. Thank you, Octiz. Very interesting clues there. I've read that one out already. Orion's wrote United States. Well, at least one Anunnaki, or if not, oh crap, it's scrolled all the way to the bottom. At least one Anunnaki or descendant of Anunnaki went to Mesoamerica, but they didn't set up the 52 states originally, and it's now I think 50 states. Right, sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom, and now it's scrolled all the way to the top, but the top is not, so it's nearer to where you guys have started writing. So I've missed chunks of questions, but I'm going to get to these ones now. Adrena's wrote giants. Obviously not a full question, so I don't know where you're going with it. But yes, there were giants. They were the offspring off of the fallen angels, which were not angels. They were just the Igigi, which means watchers. They were the ones on Mars that came down to Mount Sinai, stole human women. In the Bible, it says the sons of God, because the Elohim, they were sons. They had relationships with humans, and some of those ended up having gigantism, which ended up being bigger than their fathers, which were 8 to 12 foot tall as the Anunnaki. So then ended up with gigantism, which is even bigger than that. So yes, giants were around. Technically, anyone over 7 foot is a giant anyway. Steve Brown's wrote, you can't convince the blind who choose not to look outside the box. I know. I hear what you're saying, Steve. I know. I can't help it. I know. Goodies wrote, were lizard here before humans? No evidence of a intelligent lizard species here whatsoever, regardless of what David Icke says about a couple of Anunnaki statues that ended up getting squashed, and he says, look, they look like reptilians. No. Anunnaki were not reptilians. So, no, there's no evidence of them, unless someone's got evidence, and then I'll happily look at it. Sim has wrote, search up Enoch in... Search up... Sorry, Manny's giving me more. Manny, you don't have to. Bless you. I appreciate that. Sim wrote, search up Enoch in Islam. Idris. I'm not sure where you're going with that, because you do realise there was more than one Enoch. So I'd need to know where you was going with that in order to understand what you was talking about. Abby's wrote, Steve Lamacu with a Q on the end. I don't know who Steve Lamacu is. Sorry. Raphael has wrote, the dome will rock back like a scroll soon. The dome that about 8 people could see in the ancient past, but none of these 9 billion can see it now. And those 8 people all went up into space, into heaven, and came back down alive. You kind of get where the firmament is now, don't you? You're kind of working out that maybe it's not a dome, maybe it is, because obviously they could see it because they wrote about it, and you wouldn't know the word firmament if it wasn't for those people. So they clearly saw something, and what would they have seen? Not a dome, because we can't see it. How the hell could they see it? And they don't even have telescopes. Is the goddess? Sorry, I'm trying to read people's names. Is the goddess has wrote, great topic. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Carmenute has wrote, it's scarily obvious. Thank you. Hopefully that's something I'd said. Ian has wrote, people who believe this Anunnaki theories, please add me. I feel lonely believing this here in Bolivia. Oh, bless you. Well, I mean, technically it's not a theory. Literally, we've got the tablets that talk about them as lords and Elohim and everything else. We've got the evidence. It's just whether people want to believe it or not. More people believe obviously in a man-made book of the old translations. You know what book I'm talking about. Than actually going to the original translations. It's crazy how easily people can be. Yeah, anyway, Kilwam has wrote, why do most believe in someone they've never met or witnessed? Again, exactly what I was just saying. I know. It's, yeah. Obviously, I believe in Enlil and Enki because we've got the carvings, we've got their buildings, we've got at least 450,000 years of their history here on Earth. So we've got some sort of physical evidence that they were doing the things that they said in these tablets. Adrena's wrote, they do not adhere. That's our hills. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Sorry. Blue, that blue name that I can't pronounce. If you've done any research, you can tell he's speaking the closest thing to actual truth. Oh, bless you. Bless you, Blue. Thank you, yeah. Oh, obviously you've done some research because you wouldn't have said that otherwise. That's lovely. Thank you. And then David's wrote to Blue, true that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've for 40 odd years, and this isn't. And the thing is, everything's connected. Believe it or not, Bigfoots are connected to the Orbs. The Orbs are connected to the Greys and us and the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki only found out really about the Greys when it was about 8,000 BC when Marduk started. We'll forget mainstream states. When Marduk started, became Ra in Egypt, and of course, I've done videos showing why Ra would be brown skinned because first of all that they lived 400 odd thousand years in one of the hottest places in the planet. You will get sunburnt, and they're not used to sun. Bearing in mind their planet doesn't come that close to the sun. But also I have showed an expert witness saying that the same thing. An expert witness in skin as well as Egypt saying that the carvings or the drawings of the Anunnaki, technically it's Anunnaki, but of Ra, etc., were dark-skinned because of sunburn, because the daughters were yellow. They weren't brown either. So they were painted in yellow, probably for whatever reason, yellow. I doubt if they were physically yellow, but yeah, she's gone along with that. Sorry, waffled on there. Still Turtles wrote, watching the man who fell to earth at the moment, pretty good. Do you know, I don't think I've seen that one. Carmenatus wrote, we learn to fly in 100 years. Imagine millions and millions of years of ancient civilization. Yeah, I agree. Within 200 years, we're going to have artificial intelligence from flying to something. Well, I mean, we've got it now. Dad Jokes channel has wrote, what's your thoughts on Tartaria? So I've looked into it. The only thing I can find, and I have asked for evidence, but no one's given me it. The only thing I can find is that there was an empire called Tartarian, and it was a Mongolian empire 500 years ago. I've not found any evidence of an advanced civilization, advanced tech. I know people have said there's advanced tech, and when I've asked for it, they said, "Oh, there's a picture on the internet of a mobile phone." And the mud floods, obviously, there was mud and there was floods. That's what happens when mud gets wet. But the pictures that people have shown, some of those were actually buildings carved into rock, not mud flooding over. So people are making up crap, and I know that for a fact. So yeah, no, there's no advanced. Bennett has wrote, where are your videos? So they're all on my TikTok. You just sort of follow me and scroll all the way to the bottom, or if you want to watch them on YouTube, easier. Well, just type in Our True History Parts, and I say parts because obviously other people have used the word Our True History, and you'll find them there. Or just go to my website, which you can then go to YouTube off of my website anyway if you want to. ourtruehistory.co.uk, just co.uk, and you'll find live chats there. You'll find I chat with guests as well, which is fascinating. I chat about Coral Castle with a guest. I chat to Philomena about RH negative. So yeah, I've got some good live chats there as well. I even chat to religious people, which is interesting. You'll find, and I don't mean to sound bad, but you'll find by the end, certainly the last video that I did, the live chat with the religious person, by the end of it, he goes, oh, you got me on that one, and pretty much admitted then that maybe I'm right, which was great to hear. Ennis wrote, I'm an enthusiast on archaeology, so this makes sense to me. Please add me. I will follow you back. I don't know if you've got any videos, but I'll follow you back. Jake has wrote to 13 Black, send us pictures, laugh out loud. Yeah, Jake. I'm glad it's not just me asking for evidence. Raphael's wrote, the 4 fallen angels beneath the river Euphrates will be released soon. Well, interestingly, as you know, in fact, if you read the actual ancient tablets, which I did, if you watch my videos, I actually read out a tablet where they said that they buried Gilgamesh. And it was they parted the waters once again. This is the 3rd time they parted waters. You've got Moses, you've got an Egyptian story, and you've got the Gilgamesh where he was buried. So yeah, he was buried in the Euphrates, which, in fact, in fairness, if you actually read the tablets, they created, the Anunnaki created, not God. God didn't do it. And the Anunnaki, Enki and Enlil created the Euphrates and Tigris. It says so. That God didn't do it. Patty's nurse has put loads of laughing faces. I'm guessing not believer. Patty wrote aliens is not from, and then I don't know what the rest of it is. E. Spending has wrote Prometheus. Obviously, E. Spending probably has no knowledge whatsoever of anything else other than movies. That's the danger, isn't it? Saint Austerbury Societies wrote, accept request, please. I do. I might do some requests on Sunday if anyone wants to actually physically talk to me. I have to sort of limit it to 15 minutes per person, but yeah, I'll probably do them Sunday. So if anyone's around and wants to chat to me and tell me where I'm wrong, happy to learn. You know, I'm not doing this to be big-headed or anything. I'm happy to learn. As I say, Sherry's pointed me and Philomena's pointed me in places that I never thought I'd, would understand, and so they're great. Zahen has wrote, they tell you in the Emerald Tablets they are white like us, laugh out loud. There's different translations of the Emerald Tablets. I'm just trying to think. The children of Chem. I'm just trying to think of the wording. I don't ever recall. They might. I think they talked about the black-headed people, the little black-headed people, because you got to remember they're 8 to 12 foot tall, so it's not a racist thing. I think they talked about them, but I don't recall them saying physically or verbally that in one particular sentence that they were white. I don't recall that. Spirit Field has wrote yup. ATM has wrote a laughing face, again not a believer. Kermit has wrote race is meaningless, the eternal soul borrows many forms. The light energy beings, which is what I believe are the eternal forms, which again Emerald Tablet Soft did talk about those. They're the ones that join with our pineal gland and then becomes a spirit when we die, and then crosses over and reincarnates. But yeah. Patty wrote aliens are demons. Yeah, Patty. I hate doing this. Describe a demon. Think about it for a second. You can't. That means there's no form to a demon because you'll say, well, they're just formless. but someone else is sitting there thinking that a demon looks like Bill Gates or a demon. But basically, it's the same as a monster. You can't describe a monster. A monster is something that you're scared of. A demon is something that you think is evil. So when you say aliens are demons, the moment we land on another planet, we are now a demon. You can't have it both ways. Sorry, I'm not knocking you. It's just you have to take it with a little bit of logic. You can't just throw things out there. Sorry. Manny's wrote, "You are what you eat." Fact, I know. I feel like sometimes a big chocolate ice cream. Karen's put some funny faces to look up at what Manny's wrote. ATM wrote, "You were created." No problem at all. If you could show me the evidence of that. I know you're going to point to the Bible, and then I can point to the tablets that actually the Bible copied from. So one of us, I'm not going to mention names, but one of us is probably more right than the other one. Literally, I can point to the tablets where they tried to create humans that predate the Bible. Jane, oh hi Jane. Jane's wrote time check 8:30, and it's now 8:44, 8:48. So I'm 18 minutes behind. Thank you, Jane. Nice to see you again. To see you, nice. Kershad has wrote, "It's all old school stuff. We have computers and so much more now." Not sure what that's referring to. Raphael's wrote, "The living God created every soul, and all eyes shall see soon, and all knees shall bow." Are you referring to Genesis 1:27 as opposed to the original version 1:26? No one answers me on that. I'm only 18 minutes behind. Raphael, please. Why do you go by the man-edited version? Which you know man is greedy. You know man hides things for a reason. Why do you go by that version and not the version before, the more original version? If you let me know, I'm curious, because I in my head I just cannot fathom why anyone would do that. Bennett has wrote, "I want to watch your videos." Thank you very much. Yeah, they're outtruehistory.co.uk, or just go to YouTube, Our True History, just type in Our True History Parts, or sit there and scroll all the way to the bottom of my videos on TikTok. I cover so many subjects. Bigfoot's one of my favourites. I know I sort of talk about the Anunnaki a lot, but Bigfoot's is one of my favourite subjects. JW's wrote, "What about us mixed people?" So right. Scientists or archaeologists have found skeletons of half human and half, for example, Florensis, half Neanderthal, half Erectus, half Denver, half this, half that. There's loads of names. I can't even remember half of them. I've done videos on them. So basically, every hominid was breeding with every other hominid by the looks of it, or certainly humans were breeding with every hominid, and that I think is where we get the diversity of, the Chinese type people and the different sort of noses in some people. Forgive me for saying it, but we know the Mayans had larger noses and stuff, and I think if you look at the reconstructions of certain hominids, such as Homo erectus, I think they had big noses. So you can kind of guess who was doing what with who, seeing as we do have the evidence of skeletons that have half this and half that in it. Enin has wrote, "What? Oh, it's funny how." I just scrolled all the way to the bottom again. I don't know why it does that. Only certain times. Sorry, just finding where I was. Hopefully you've, again, while I'm finding where I was, do your own research. If you're interested in any of this, don't just take my word for it, please. That's not what I'm here for. I have a little bit of a laugh and a joke, but there's people as I've read out that's already done their homework, and they come to the same conclusion. So it's not me making all this up. Mull has wrote, by the word of Thoth, your concerns of race are pathetic. They won't have race. By the word of Thoth. Yeah. By the word of Thoth. So Ningzida, Anunnaki, Palskin. Your concerns of race. I wouldn't say I'm concerned about race. I would say I'm only going by it. Same as me talking about that they ate locusts. I'm just pointing out things. Doesn't mean I'm concerned about it. But anyway, are pathetic. And thank you, Mal. That's very nice of you to say. They won't have race. Well, technically there was, because they talked about the black-headed people in Chem. So I don't know how much research you've done. It sounds like not a lot. Sorry. I'm only going by the tablets. If you're going to try and quote the tablets, I'll quote them back to you all day long. Quantum has wrote, don't anything unless the evidence. Well, no, sometimes obviously I do put my my opinions in, because life, if you never had an opinion on something, then life wouldn't be the way it is, dear Quantum. So yeah, I have to put my opinion in, and I do say where I believe. You've heard me. If you've listened to me long enough, you see that I say my opinion, or I believe, or I think. But if I point to something that's factual, then I'll point to it and I can back it up. Forrest Grant has wrote, "We are farmed by reptilians." So I'm guessing what you're saying is modern times reptilians such as Dracos come here and literally take us and either use us for slaves or eat us. Can't deny that, believe it or not. I can't deny that. So it's not to say reptilians were here when the Anunnaki were here or lived here, but now modern times, I can't say you might be right. Mills has wrote, possible help from aliens instead of creation. What you mean, the universe? The only evidence we've got of ancient things talking about the creation of universe is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. That's the oldest known that I'm aware of. I mean, you've got stories from the turtle with the universe on its back and all that kind of stuff, but they actually would have come after the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So, but are you really saying? Maybe you're saying the humans created from aliens instead of creation. I'm guessing you're referring to the universe. So yeah, I don't know how the universe started, but a thought is what the Emerald Tablets of Thoth says. Humbles has wrote, likes, hearsay, blasphemy. Sounds like an episode of Carry On, doesn't it? Infamy. They've got it in for me. So sorry, Humbles. Lies, heresy, and blasphemy. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess the Lord Jesus. No problem at all, Humble. Could you just explain what about the other children of God? And don't say us. And what about the ones that raped human women? You know the ones, the sons of God that took unto them the daughters of man and then forced themselves on them. Could you just give me a little bit of an explanation about those lords? And also, Lord Enki was the great lord, by the way, if you want to go back to the original tablets that predate the Bible, predate Lord. So yeah, this Humble's going to write down now about the sons of God. And no one wants to talk about it. The Bible people seem to just pick and choose what they want to read out. But I don't. I'm asking you right now, who were... We know who they were. They were the Jiji, but... the Watchers. But in your eyes, it says in the Bible, if you're going to quote the Bible, then the sons of God took unto them the daughters of man. So where are they? What are they? Why are they sick when they come down and physically abused human women? Could you answer that? Everybody, he or she's going to answer he, she, it, them, they, whatever. Is going to reply to that. So I'm looking forward to reading that reply. JW wrote, did you miss my question about the mixed people? No, I think I did read that now. So yeah, hopefully you heard me. In has wrote, what about Americans going to the archaeological museum in Iraq after the invasion? Clues there too. Brilliant question. I have done a couple of videos on that. So yes, it was. You probably guessed it. It was the fake ISIS was American military. You obviously knew that. Yeah, the curators of the Iraq Museum said that they had earpieces in it. It was well controlled, and they took only the originals, even though there's artifacts there that are Sumerian artifacts, just happens to be Sumerian. The Sumerian artifacts that were copies that look as good as the originals, they knew exactly what ones to take, and just so happens they wanted a photo shoot, so they had a nice cameraman there. Back then, when we didn't really have mobile phones with decent cameras, they had a cameraman filming them and taking photos of them, smashing up the Iraq Museum in an order to pretend that it was ISIS doing it. However, a year or so ago, I did another video where I actually showed the article where it says the Americans have apologized for stealing the artifacts from the Iraq Museum. Yeah. So, yes. Sorry, it scrolled to the very bottom again. I hate this. Okay, it's gone all the way up. Religious people. Okay, so I'm missing some again. I don't know why it keeps doing this. N has wrote, religious don't want us to know this is because that will ruin their enterprises. Yeah, I agree. Tug has wrote, Jesus in the midst pointed me a spot, so I dug through 6 foot of a mass grave of Native Americans. I missed lots, unfortunately, because it scrolled all the way to the bottom, so I have no idea what you're talking about there. Sorry. Users wrote, I am an ex-Christian, I believe this. Thank you. It's nice that you've hopefully looked into some of this. David wrote, some aliens want to merge with us to create hybrids because they evolved too much into tech. Well, yeah, I mean, there is hybrids now, apparently, according to whistleblowers, walking amongst us. The Greys' agenda of creating hybrids has finished, which is why we don't hear stories of people being abducted anymore in the same way that we did. So, yeah. Harold wrote, this guy is God. Thank you very much. Hey, Google. No one takes me seriously, even though I have to take everyone else seriously when they identify as something. And I have been identifying as God since I was 20, so nearly 30 odd years ago. But I'm not allowed to do that because when I try and go into girls' toilets, I'm joking, I don't go into girls' toilets. OG has wrote, you can be religious and know the truth. Hopefully, you could, yeah. Raz has wrote, Zachariah Sitchin, read the 12th Planet. Yeah, I've read Zachariah Sitchin's work. Yeah. Harold wrote, this host is the true light bearer. Oh, thank you. It's very nice of you to say. Alice has wrote, humans has created labour race to harvest gold for the alien tech. Spot on, Alice. Yeah, that is literally, I've read the tablets out, the translations of the tablets. So no one in their right mind, when they first learn to read and write, starts making up stories about an alien race needing gold and creating humans and genetically modifying hominid. No one does that if they're the first ever sentient race that can read and write, unless it was Anunnaki. Benjamin has wrote, I've always believed that humans are an alien experiment. We're not an experiment, but although saying that, mermaids, possibly cyclopses, centaurs, minotaurs, they are, and I've done videos showing the evidence that they actually existed. If not on TikTok, I've done them on my Patreon page. So if anyone wants to watch loads of videos that are not on my TikTok about things that real deep stuff. My Patreon page has got a hell of a lot of stuff. It's even got videos on true stories where I sit and edit the bloody videos properly. I don't just film the computer screen or anything like that. So if you're interested in, watching a lot of videos about all this kind of stuff, my Patreon page, patreon.com/Outro History. Harold wrote, listening to the host as ultimate fact and truth. I might have some things wrong, but until someone tells me I've got it wrong, which, touch wood, no one's done yet, which is quite amazing. I have people, like I say, I have people saying, you're wrong, BS. And I say, no problem, tell me where I'm wrong. But they haven't. So until that happens, and also I do debunk other people, not that I want to, but I have done, and they've not come back and debunked me, which you'd think they'd do. Especially that religious guy that literally tries to debunk anyone that's on his videos. I've not seen any videos of him with me on it. But anyway, thank you though. It's very nice. So, I know I do sound big-headed, don't I? Troy wrote, so who created the aliens? Chemicals. We've look it up. You can see now that we have actually created life with 5 chemicals here on Earth. That was no life beforehand. So it does. That's how life started. OG has wrote, we're all one consciousness, just tune in. I would say the light energy being that joins with our pineal gland 3 to 4 months in the womb, which is when the Quran says we get our spirit. So the Quran's got a lot of things right. The Quran actually, between all of the religions, if you can work it out, they all basically say the correct stuff, but you have to decipher it and get rid of the sort of rose-tinted glasses. But yeah, Apple users wrote, and what about the rest of life on Earth? How do you mean? That all started with chemicals millions, if not billions of years ago. And with that we have got an evolution. Like I say at the beginning of the video, beginning of the live chat, there's a temple in India that predates Darwin that shows an evolution trail all the way up past humans. There's another species above us. So someone figured out that there was evolution before Darwin. But there is a missing link between hominids and Homo sapiens, and the Anunnaki, with their fusing their chromosomes and whatever else they did to us. The Wikinator has wrote, research is good, but we need hard evidence. Watch my videos. I point to the evidence. I show you the evidence. I mean, if you don't want to believe it, fine. But I mean, surely the temples and buildings that they created back then that we can't create now should make you start thinking, hang on a minute. And then when they talk about the 12 planets in our solar system, which we didn't know about back then, is that not evidence? Is that a guess? A hell of a guess? Jeremy's right. The Anunnaki and hybrid Draconian Amu hybrids. The Anunnaki are hybrid Draconian. Jeremy, I'm going to ask for evidence of that. Sorry, because you've made it as a statement. Now, if you said I believe, then that's fine. But you've made it as a statement. I'll ask for evidence of that. You won't be able to give me any. Sorry, I don't mean to knock you, but it's just I'm just late in the day and I feel like asking someone for evidence that they can't produce. A Square has wrote, okay, but have you researched the importance of Halloween and the Pleiades? I have not, no. I have no idea about Halloween and the Pleiades. Sounds interesting. Raphael's wrote, how did the eye know sight exists, let alone come into being in order to detect it? I have no idea where to go with that. I mean, literally, if you don't know how evolution would work with the survival of the fittest, then I don't know how to answer that if you don't know that. Fred has wrote, inside we are all the same. Spot on. I've probably got too many biscuits inside me, but other than that, Darren has wrote, what about the dog-headed people? I have looked into it, but there's not enough Sorry, I'm just plugging the phone in ever so quickly. Hopefully I'll try and get to a few more questions before I go. But before I do go, because it's on 8%, it will die. I plugged it in, but it doesn't seem to charge as quick as it uses. If anyone is interested, Our True History website is called ourtruehistory.co.uk. It's got everything there. You can go to places. So yeah, the dog-headed people. It's we've only got, or I've only got, stories of people saying that they've seen half man, half dog, or whatever, that kind of thing. Seems to be mostly in America. That's not to say there isn't. But there's no footage. Whereas at least with Bigfoots, we've got, the footprints, we've got the hair, we've got the scat, we've got the stories, we've got the video footage. But dog people, I've not come across any evidence. So I'm not saying there isn't, but I kind of need, until I get some sort of evidence I can look at. It's really hard to say. ZZZ is right. Says charging slow. Sorry, it just popped up. Where are they now? So the Anunnaki live on their own planet. The ones here had died. The offspring stayed here because they're half human. And Anunnakis, which are Elohim, are on their own home planet. Raz has wrote Ancient Sumeria, correct. Drake has wrote, it is the firmament meal. It's the layer between space and Earth. It's not a dome. It's not an impenetrable dome. The Anunnaki would have struggled to get through the atmosphere because that's what happens when you're in a spaceship. There is no impenetrable dome, and the first words of firmament were way back in Sumerian times, which obviously we can't see it now, but how the hell would they have seen it if it was a dome, invisible dome? They didn't see it, so... Super wrote, billions seen scams. Not sure what scams is. Regina's wrote, they are here. Blemier's just wrote, Darren's wrote Blemnier. I don't know what Blemnier is, sorry. Alice has wrote, taking a wild guess, there's some. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Harold's wrote, sorry, we do look like reptiles. I wouldn't have said, don't tell my girlfriend that. Yeah, I wouldn't have said that I look like a reptile, but maybe I do. Now, we do have junk DNA, and obviously we supposedly have the Coptic bat tau should have been a tau and stuff like that. So obviously, if you go back in terms of evolution, then yes, we probably did come out of the water at some point as a reptile. Way back before mammals came along. So we probably do have junk DNA of reptilian, and this doesn't mean the Anunnaki were reptilian. Redneck has wrote, which species created us? It's a race called Elohim. They're on a planet called Nibiru in our solar system. Comes around every 3,600 years, which is why we have sometimes every 3,600 years we have disasters that cause us problems with meteorites, etc. That as originally called demons. That was the original name for demons, meteorites. And dragons were comets with tails. Users 3.5 wrote Noah's Ark was a spaceship. No, it wasn't. We've actually got the original tablets. It's made out of wood. We've got the actual dimensions. We've actually got the amount of wood that was needed, all in one of the original tablets where Enki tells Zazudra to build it because basically his life's going to be over if he doesn't build this ark. So unfortunately, user 3.5, you've got no evidence of that, but I've got evidence of how it was actually built and what it was built. It was a round boat, by the way, if anyone's interested. It's not a boat like we use these days. Back in the day, actually, round boats were the thing. Regina's wrote same thing. Alice has wrote, taking a while, guess there's some mysterious universe listeners here. I'm guessing that's like a YouTube channel or something. So if there's any mysterious universe listeners, Alice is calling out to you. Sherry's wrote to someone, Seance, which I've not seen their name, so maybe that person's been blocked. No, you're wrong, Gain. The rhesus monkey is how they found out about the rhesus factor. User 2O's, I believe this is true. Thank you. Blue has wrote, I have a dwarf caiman named Draco. Yeah, there's an actual. Yeah, there is. Yeah, is it the one with the little? I think it's got wings between its front, or not wings, but a membrane between its front legs and its body. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, is little. Yeah, it's tiny. It's only like 2 inches long, and it's called a Draco. Yeah, if that's the same one I'm thinking of. Not bad for a guy. Not bad. I was going to say, I've been funny here, but not bad for a guy that didn't know how to spell, was in special needs at school, came out with no qualifications because I didn't do any. To have to remember all this crap. Goshly Most has wrote Archons. The problem I have with the Archons is wherever I look, all I find is people talking about them. I can't find any definitive. I mean, you could say, well, the Greys people talk about, but the Archons, in my opinion, seem to be a made-up race. I might be wrong, but I just cannot find, a decent whistleblower that that you can sort of been verified, for example, by Linda Moulton Howe or someone like that. All I get is every branch I go to for that, I just keep finding normal people talking about them. So until I get something concrete on the Archons, I, in my opinion, I don't think they're a real species, alien species. Williams wrote, "Where do you get your knowledge from?" So, when I was 6, my mum read out a newspaper article which basically said that an old man walked out the back garden to get some coal, and the coal was stacked up against his back garden, back wall, and he disappeared. And his wife was in the house at the time, and he just literally never came back. It just disappeared, and that fascinated the crap out of me. And from that moment on, even though I admit I was crap at reading, really couldn't read, I would try and devour absolutely anything, even news programs, like I say, TV programs to do with anything to do with aliens or abductions. And I looked into spontaneous human combustion, and because I was trying to work out where that guy went. So I went through. I know it sounds crazy, but I wanted to know where that guy went. I looked into portals. I looked into everything, and from that, I then ended up, as I got older, I ended up finding out about clairvoyance, mediums, and spiritists. Even though I didn't believe in spirits at that point, or didn't want to, I did go to a spiritualist myself originally, and wasn't 100% sure. But anyway, so I ended up paying them to answer questions once I realised there was spirits. I've spoken to Linda. I've spoken to Nick Pope, and I chat to some of these famous researchers that you all know and love. I've been to places to try and find answers to things. I've clearly gone through the ancient texts to try and decipher things. And when you watch my videos, you'll see, and again, not big-headed, you'll see I'll say, this is the first, and I'll point something out because it is the first. And sometimes they're groundbreaking, like where Atlantis is. Groundbreaking. Because I can point to 14 points, whereas other people, when they talk about the Rickack structure or the Eye of Sahara, as most commonly people seem to think that that's it, for every point they point out on Plato, I can point out 2 Plato points that doesn't make that the correct place. Whereas mine, I don't use Plato. Why? Because Plato actually did write fictitious books. And that's the truth, he did. Go look it up. I can't remember, I think one of them's called, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, he did write fictitious books. But so I used the information from elsewhere, such as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Go watch my pinned video, you'll see. where Atlantis is, in my opinion. So yeah, I did a lot of knowledge, and until someone says I'm wrong, my knowledge is pretty good. I know it sounds bad. I don't mean it to sound bad, but Dave is right. I have to say this, that it's pretty good, only because I've got people listening to me, and if they're thinking I'm talking crap, then why listen to me? So I have to kind of justify myself by saying that, like I say, I pointed things out to Linda Moulton Howe, and she said, genius, well thought of. She didn't think of it. So, yeah. Davis wrote, I believe that, bro. It's the only thing that makes sense. Gosley's wrote, search for Archons and Lush. Again, with the Archons, I can't find any evidence. Sorry, my phone's going funny because right, okay. I'm on 7%. It will die. I've had to unplug it because it wouldn't let me. It's going funny on me. Bozos wrote, Anunnaki are fallen, bruh. Read the Bible, get educated. Funny your name is Bozo. Oh, I love it when, just at the end of the shows, I love it when I get I love it when a plan comes together. Oh no, it says TikTok isn't responding.